Nick is going out of his way personally attacking anyone who does, and in the process, effectively holding the movement hostage. The latter being a huge problem because America's leadership needs to actually start acting in the best interest of Americans in order for the country to survive. It's now very fair to ask why. People are asking, is he a Fed? And ask away. I've asked myself that question many times. But honestly, I don't think that is the only explanation. I think it's just as easy to explain from Nick Fuentes just being a vindictive, emotionally unbalanced, lost orphan with maybe some sexual stuff going on. It's ego. Here's the thing. When men go through really hard times, when men go through struggle, it's supposed to help your ego chill the fuck out. It's supposed to help you gain perspective. Grow up. But that doesn't seem to happen ever. Nick Fuentes went through 10 years of hard times, of being pushed down.
The cat is watching the water fountain
but instead,
with great interest.
Nick Fuentes seems to have a bigger ego than ever.
I got rid of 2 kittens today. 2 kittens down. All 5 will be gone by tomorrow morning.
About Nick's sort of history of claims, I want to jump into what Nick claimed about Charlie.
The only reason he did a video about me, it's so typical. I did a 1-minute clip responding.
Pretty excited about the kittens finding new homes.
Yeah, the clip I was finding was 8 minutes, Nick, so I don't know what clip you're referring to. But these are the types of small, not super important inconsistencies and just little lies that are adding up on Nick's side. Little, shall we say, displays of the insecurity of his position where he has to kind of fudge everything to make it seem like there's no argument for him to argue against, make it seem like we have no position over here, like all the conspiracy theorists are crazy. There's a lot of things going on.
He said,
As of tomorrow morning, they will all be gone, yes. I rehomed 2 of them today.
Where I go back through your past and grab a whole bunch of clips of you saying things in other contexts, out of context, like the hilarious GTA clip that I defended you on because I thought that shit was funny as hell. That's the part. This was just me making a direct response to you asking for evidence. How seem to know about it? So I gave you 2 hours of it. Trust me, there's way more than 2 hours. That's why there's so much content about this, is because there's so much depth to how much this doesn't make sense. We could go on for hours and hours more, but I thought 2 was enough to thoroughly shit on your brain.
fuck you, fuck him. There is no what's the evidence?
There is no evidence. Wait, what's the evidence?
Well, the bullet could never do that.
See, here we're going to get into the part where he tries to make the argument sound retarded, but he's just exposing his own lack of an argument. You can go watch my 2-hour video. You can compare it to his representation of it. It's very transparent. We have the internet, Nick. We can all watch things.
That's not evidence. 1, 2, there are many ballistics experts that disagree. J.F. Garaipi did a 1-hour video about it.
This part's going to be great, too. We're going to respond to J.F. Frankie a little bit and to Phoenix Ammunition, to all the other experts that have just popped up immediately to, shovel the bed stuff conveniently all of a sudden, right when there's a new resurgence of conversation about how this doesn't work.
There's a number of other ammunition sellers and other ballistics experts that.
Yeah, we know you're about that. We'll take. JF, right, is this French
Dude,
guy.
I got this frozen naan from Trader Joe's. It's like garlic. It's really good. It needs salt, but it's really good. What I was eating before was some kind of mushroom pizza.
This part right here. I think it is relevant.
It was very good. And it was soupy in the middle, but it was fully cooked. But I wish this was the pizza dough.
That's the only way you could ever possibly imagine. No. My theory is that the skin relates to really hair. Now we proved them to it because all the TV USA leakers have told us that the autopsy says that he's not kidding. His theory is that the skin stopped the bullet. Travel down this line.
No, it was just mushroom. It was like 7 mushroom or something. And this just has garlic, chunks of garlic, and I don't know, some kind of herb. Can't really taste what it is. It's not very bright, so it mustn't be basil.
For it to go into the body, you have to believe it going 2
Alright,
days.
I'm full.
It's a hard turn to influence the center environment and then pass by or stop by these guys here. But not to get it was by the skin and bounced toward the bones. Now, as it was bounced by the skin, elasticity of the skin, that is the impact it's going to take in actually the body full. Because the skin that have soft.
Alright. Let's get to work.
Just a little bit was enough to just push
Oh, look what I got.
along the spine, but not too deep. Like a down to the
Hopefully this will work.
the skin is a trampoline. This surgeon thinks with the skin as a trampoline, it's going to bounce back the bullet from the back of Charlie's head with enough force to then travel back through muscle tissue, hit the bone vertebrae, shatter them, travel, then do a right-hand turn, travel down the bone vertebrae, shatter them, all the way down to T1. That's a very powerful trampoline, Mr. John Francois. This is one of my favorite moments in Nick Fuentes' history. Oh, there are many. There are many incredible moments in Nick Fuentes' history. Before this exchange with Nick Fuentes, I just want to remind myself, I was cool. I didn't have any problem with him. I thought that his ideas were pretty solid and they made me think really critically, and I've been generally very supportive of him. I'd actually made, I think, more than one video directly supporting him.
Okay, let's see if this works.
The pause space here. It's pretty epic. I think that it was once I started to notice his perspective on Charlie Kirk.
I bought labels.
Then I started to stop.
I bought labels and
He called me and was like, "Yo, what the fuck is Nick doing? What is?"
So it's got like Slicky on the back, and it's like, I don't know, cotton or polyester on the front, and so label, and then I just iron it on to the back of the rug. So I've got labels to send to my commissioned rugs now.
Is that Turning Point USA is the epitome of Nick Fuentes.
Oh my God, did I show you guys the rug that I'm going to be making? Check this out. This is my next rug that I'm doing.
One that he actually invited me to.
Aw, give me more options. Damn it. I'll be right back. I have to go get myself more options. Try that again. Try that again.
Larger pieces that Nick has been championed in a way that almost was. And the Charlie Kirk story actually dug a lot of that open. We learned about like the Shillmans and how
there it is.
They would, like,
okay, so this is going to be the next rug I make.
They like offer donations.
That's someone's cat.
Like entice you and all these. And he was just completely silent on all of that.
I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to look good as fuck.
Who murdered Charlie Kirk? And it was.
And let me tell you, it is a dead ringer for that cat. I am a strong, independent trans woman. Didn't you hear about me in the about 10 years ago? I was in the National Enquirer magazine because I gave birth vaginally. I was the first trans woman to give birth vaginally through my neo vagina. All over, so it was all over the news. I can't believe you don't even know who I am. Pretty lame.
That's what we were just watching here. Nick egged on, and eventually started citing this Reiki guy, and eventually once he started talking about why he thinks that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, it got even weirder. Because the dude he cited was this guy that was literally talking about skin trampolines, stopping 30-aught cigarettes. It's like, for a smart person, that's a pretty fucking retarded. It looks so bad. It looks so irredeemably unintelligent that I still don't know what to make of it. He eventually just gave up and like stopped talking about it and went on his merry way. And I just kind of left it be because I didn't know what to make of it. I mean, it was kind of a funny time. Nick was just serving up like meal after meal after meal of just easy content, a slam dunk content. I'm like, well, what? I'm sorry, you put that on video and posted on the internet? It's one thing for like Ben Shapiro or like I don't know, a Yali to like have a bad day. But like Mr. Champion of high IQ anti-Semitism here, so blatantly posting one of the most low IQ concepts I've ever even heard of. The biggest stories of the decade. This seems pretty fucking in some way. That was so weird. And ever since then, it's left a weird like vibe for me, and I haven't trusted Nick ever since. And it's not that I don't trust him because I think he's necessarily fed and being controlled by some handler or something. It's not like I necessarily think he's blackmailed or bought off or anything. It's like I'm open to responsibility, but I don't. It just confirmed for me that I don't trust because whether for petty type reasons or just because he's addicted and petty and hates Minnesota so much that he has to come after, doesn't matter. If you're capable of portraying yourself as so fucking smart and such a high IQ anti-Semite, and then that's your perspective, I don't fucking trust you. I don't trust a word that comes out of your goddamn mouth. Nope. Nope, sir. So, yeah. That's how I feel about Nick Fuentes. And that was the moment that it changed.
There we go. Oh my God, brightness is up. I can see the screen.
That changed it. Because here's how I see people I don't trust again. Unless if you suck at your job, it's easy.
I'm not doing the cat one tonight.
Literally everything you do is retarded.
I still have to finish.
Internet, all is red.
I have to finish gluing around the perimeter of Lightning McQueen.
Are right a lot. They put out a lot.
And then I'm pretty sure he's done.
There's elements of them that
I did the 95 yesterday. That came out so good. I have a picture. I'll show you what it looks like before.
He got a lot of incredible clips. He's pretty fucking fun.
Man, I just bent my fucking toenail backwards and it worked. So,
deeper underlying things.
Oh, you can't really. Okay, yeah. So the 95 right here, you couldn't really see it as well, but now, you know, you can see it's not so
trusting him or idolizing him or
fuzzy and
he's got some like crystal ball into like the direction that America needs to go.
Man, I really fucking hurt my toenails.
And I wanted him to find some male role
Nope,
models.
I'm not a witch at all.
Stoked if you listen to Nick Fuentes' ideas. But oh boy, would he be finding some better physical, emotional, spiritual role models than Nick Fuentes for how to be a good man. And honestly, right now in America, we need more good men. And when I say good man, Nick Fuentes is not exactly the kind of person that
comes to mind.
Just like is conjured by that phrase. Jake weighed in after Lucas Cage jumped in. I was trying to stay out of this argument. We're just going to kind of briefly go through the reactions and laugh a little bit at some of them and just kind of wrap things up. I was trying to stay out of this argument, but I was at both of these meetings, and this is a flat out lie. I didn't, and I do believe that Jake was at both these meetings. He lives in Vegas right next to Dan. They're very good friends. And he's often kind of like the pipeline to get like connection to Dan. At least that's what it was for me. That I went there to talk to Jake, and then went hung out Dan. I didn't believe Nick was a Fed, and told Dan that. But after seeing this, I changed my mind. Dan is viewed as a threat, so it appears they want to use Nick and Lucas to take him down. Could be. This is the kind of people that are supporting Lucas and Nick, American patriots, that use the term woke Reich unironically. This is what we call a Shabbos goy. I don't know who this guy is, but I just looked through his profile just now to kind of figure it out. And I only had to scroll down to here to figure it out. The woke Reich is at war, and it is delicious to watch them tear each other to shreds. Yeah, cool. Cool story, bro. This is insane and a flat-out lie. Earlier today, I was still trying to kill the divide with Nick and Dan, but now it seems clear they are both Feds. I had tremendous, and by both Feds, he's referring to Nick and Lucas, not to Dan, in Jake's opinion. I had tremendous respect for Nick, even when we fought, but seeing him make such an outrageous claim makes me wonder who is paying. Okay. It is a pretty outrageous claim. It's pretty intense.
So, guess what it is time to do?
Why would a man who went through Navy SEAL training ask a gay podcaster how to kill Israeli government officials?
It's time to carve this rug and make this rug 3D.
Cerebral, malignant narcissism. Qualities that know-it-all.
So, better just
highly manipulative, exploitative, and sadistic. What you are witnessing is the desperate attempts of a wounded animal to save the last remnants of his public image. So desperate that he didn't even think this lie through. If Dan was doing this to entrap Nick, he wouldn't have had him leave his phone elsewhere. And he wouldn't be sitting here 2 years later with no one having gotten in trouble. To everyone still on board with Nick Fuentes, you are aligned with evil. Whatever copes you have for this are irrelevant. Dan, a high testosterone male who has actually entered the political arena on behalf of his country, is an actual threat. A gay twink telling his audience to not have kids and vote for Democrats is a threat to no one except the actual right-wing dissidents. Leonardo, dropping fire. Rathbone, from the left. I stand with Dan Bilzerian, Butch Ware, Anthony Aguilar, Brian McGinnis, and everyone else who is mature enough to put aside petty differences so we can break the corporate Zionist duopoly and take our country back. Zeb Boykin, it's an extremely weak attempt at Fed jacketing Dan. Boring and uncreative. I'm sure you can do better. Milo weighs in. Fuentes being gay is his best case scenario, because otherwise he has to explain and excuse his personality, which is a pretty sharp take. A hilarious and sharp take. Roliat, Sarit, I've never met an opportunity to share this pic that I didn't take. Owen weighed back in on Milo's take here. Exactly. Calling him gay is being gracious and giving him the benefit of the doubt. Correct. I do agree with that take. Because if you had to explain Nick Fuentes' personality and he's not gay, that starts to be pretty uncomfortable. Toad. I find it odd that the dude whose whole persona and rise to fame was based on calling out Jewish control is now telling his huge following to vote for more of it. In multiple races, telling his following to vote for the Jewish candidate instead of the America First candidate. More of Nick's character choices. It's just weird. Just doesn't line up. It's weird. Promoting the show Euphoria, which I don't know shit about. I don't know that it promotes OnlyFans, but I've seen the weird shit about it. I don't think Nick was serious when he said he wanted to marry an OnlyFans prostitute. I think Nick has been pretty clear that he doesn't want to marry any woman because he finds them repulsive. His ego is so tiny that he's blocking people with under 5,000 followers. The Groypers are overwhelmingly a collection of terminally online, low social skill young guys who spend their days doom scrolling, making edgy memes, and hating lives on the internet, not building anything in real life. No impressive careers, no institutional power, no large families, no tangible influence outside of their little Discord servers and live stream chats. That's not entirely true. There's a lot of people out there that like Nick Fuentes a lot, that are fully functioning adults that have careers and are successful, I'm sure. But I think you probably also admit that the more masculine and capable and successful you get, the less you would identify as I am a griper, and the more you probably just identify as just I enjoy Nick Fuentes. He's cool. I like his take, but I am not just a basement frog on the internet. I'm not just a griper. That would be my assumption. I mean, I'm certainly not a griper. So, griper, y'all decide for yourselves. I'm sure y'all have either tuned out of the stream by now or you're clipping it enraged. It's all good. Maybe we'll watch a few clips of Fuentes on topic.
Can't
here.
find my black
Kind of
one. Like, just
let's listen to Nick Fuentes' own words here. Just get a little flavor for the guy. See how he feels about it
so
all.
that I could use it for this
Dan,
fucking
give me a gun.
purpose.
Officer Bilzerian claiming to be the leader of America First. A sex trafficker who is now forced to do social media because of how badly he's handled his inheritance. Pathetic.
He made me watch that whole video. Do you know that? I went to his house and he made me watch that whole video. He literally sat there and I had to watch the entire video of that incident.
Probably shouldn't show that video.
Give me a gun, dude. Let me get in there. That's so, yeah. Doesn't that just say it all?
What do you think Nick Fuentes would have done if he was at the Las Vegas shooting? What do you think Nick Fuentes' response to being in that kind of mass shooting environment would have been? Do you think his first response would have been, let me fight back? Do you think if Nick Fuentes had been there with a group of friends, his first response would have been to protect them? And aside from that, like, oh my God, he forced you to watch the video. It's like, you don't want to have conversation with friends about interesting things in the world, tell stories, talk shit. Kind of weird.
And today he says on Twitter, first he's telling us that the left is trying to kill right wingers. Now he says to vote for the Democrat in Ohio. It's too contradictory.
Oh, I'm about.
And it's like, Dan, I know
Damn.
that's smart, but
I just hit 1,000 puffs. It was at 999. Oh, there it is. 999.
And sort of empty sentences and like little insults that don't really mean anything. Just listen for sort of the rhetorical fluff that's not actually.
Does it reset?
Really boils down to that.
Oh, it doesn't reset. I must have been at 99.
This is why
99 for a while.
Like, sorry, this is why they call us Goyim. I used to think low IQ anti Semitism is just something that they said. I was wrong. Okay.
Did you guys see?
Low IQ anti Semitism.
Did you guys see the dramatic retelling of the crazy situation that just happened to me the other day? I don't know if you know what's going on with my living situation, or not my living, yeah, just my lore about how I bought 8 acres of land and then I gave half of it to my best friend. Well, I didn't buy it. I met a guy, Matthew, who was my best friend, and he gave me $100,000 after 3 days after I prayed to God to find land to help other single moms like myself. Anyway, I gave half of it to my best friend at the time, and literally the day we signed the title, she revealed that in fact she wasn't my friend. She was just like lying in wait essentially for me to give her ownership of this property so then she could just do whatever she wanted. Anyway, she messaged me out of the blue and she asked me if I would be willing to sell my share of the land if I would be willing to sell my share of the land for $10,000. And um she was hoping that I would be in such a desperate position that I'd be like, "Oh my god, $10,000 is so much money." Oh my god, $10,000. Um the land is worth at least $100,000. So why would I sell my half of it to her who stole the what she has now? And now she like I was like, "Don't you see?" I'm so proud of myself because I didn't go off on her and call her a fucking expletive deleted, colorful word. Instead of calling her that, I chose to say, "Don't you see how like what you're doing right now is adding insult to energy or adding insult to injury and like how hurtful what you're doing is to me? Like don't you see that? Like, don't you like see what you're doing? You just don't care." Of course, she took no accountability. I have all the screenshots. I saved them. So I read them out loud on my TikTok live. But I don't think I'm gonna deal with it here right now. Why are you guys out there? Orly is trying to hang out here too. He's a good boy. Orly is trying to hang out in his house too. What are you doing? Money. You're taking over his bed? That's not very nice. Oh shit, I forgot I was on live for a second. I'm stoned. Money. Why are you and the kittens out there? Come in here. Come on, cat. Let's go. Over here, Money. Money, come over here. Over here. See, the kittens are all trying to go over there. What's poor Orly to do? What's the good boy to do? Huh? Oh, I just bent my nail backward. Then. Oh yeah, like that's gonna fucking work. God damn it. Okay, alright, hang out in here, Orly. No more outside. Inside now. I don't know. Money, is it okay if I show Orly? Oh, Money, is it okay if I show Orly the kittens? Can Orly see the babies? Okay, so she's not. So you're not going to attack him now if he like looks at the kittens? You're so skittish. You're so skittish. Dude, she hasn't even noticed that 2 of her children are missing yet. Curious when that's gonna come. Cat, don't go over there. There's a dog over there. Of course you're gonna try to chew on the cord. No, Orly, stay inside. Lay down. Dude. Seriously, why? She's not gonna hurt you, dude. You're a big dog. You're like literally like 300 pounds heavier than her. She can't do shit to you. Don't be such a meanie. He probably would prefer to lay outside where it's cooler anyway. It's probably nicer outside. All right, let's get this shit on the road. Kind of bored with this though.
I completely agree.
Shit.
He's much the family and like paralyzed son. Officer, I'm sorry I killed that family of 4, but I couldn't shit my pants. And you're good. You sit on without getting struck down. All sorts of shenanigans going on with even comedians can't post their content without getting struck down on certain platforms. It's getting scary.
Please turn that crap off, sir.
Oh my gosh, boys. Let me know if the audio is good.
No,
We got to make sure
terrible.
everything's running right today. We got to make sure everything's running right today because this is
gonna
it.
work.
This is
Should I
it.
shut those windows before I get
Letting
going,
everyone
or
know.
should I just like?
But this is it.
I feel like bugs are
Okay.
gonna start coming in here any second from now.
Happen.
As a bug touched my leg.
I am very, very thankful to
Shut the windows. Let me shut the windows.
for being a straight up genuine person. Because this is it.
Oh, but that breeze feels so delicious.
I don't even know what else to say. So, before we get into it, guys, I can't
Leave that one
see
open.
a realm where I don't get hit for this, like struck. Because I'm sure Jeremy has seen this by now, and he's literally shitting his pants. Because he knows. He knows. He 100% knows.
Oh, please don't fall.
What happened. So, if it just goes down, remember the kick is back up. The backup kick is live right now.
I'm gonna shut some windows on the front side of the bus.
Let's get this out of the way. Let's get this out of the way, guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all the bees on kick. I love you. Appreciate you all the kicks, all the subs. Barring anything crazy, I probably won't be interrupting the show too much. So I just want to let you guys know that we got to get through the info. It's a lot. Oh, by the way, everything you thought, everything you heard, every rumor that you think you may know, it's all true. All of it. All right.
67
Oh my God.
windows later.
I can't believe this. All right, so let's have a good time, boys. Hey, we're here for fun, right? We're here for fun. And we're here to get to the truth and get to the bottom of
I
shit.
tried to only open like
So
7
let's
windows
do
on
that.
one side and 4 windows on the
Thank
other.
everybody. I will read your super chats. Don't worry, I'm not going to skip them. I know a lot of people are like, why are you not reading it right now? Look, we're going to be going through some tough stuff tonight. So I'm going to have to get through a lot of it. Barring any huge drops, I'll get through it.
Should
And
I glue
thank you,
this
everybody.
first?
I know you guys
No,
are subbing on
do
Kick.
both
I
of
love
them
you
at the
guys.
same
And
time.
don't forget, you guys have Tito Casino right after this. So I'm not trying to interrupt the show because I like my boys. And I know Yellow Flash will be doing one. And there's another person. Man, there's too much. God, this is insane. There's something else that's going to come out tonight. You'll see it. I don't even need to say it. You'll see it. But yeah, let's just say.
Can we get to it?
Let me yell. There's a lot free. Rep really 150 walking out with the everything. Thank you, growing. I'll go. I'll proofread as I go because this. Just joking, bro. And here, let me tell you. I was simply, I had this idea. So here, let me tell you how this happened. Real quick.
Hello, cutie patootie.
I saw Sydney liked my post about the quartering betraying his friends should affect his mental health more than just being on X, which he never left anyway. He deleted X, but he said he's taking a break from X, but he's been on it all day on his stream scrolling, so he's not actually taking a break.
I love you.
So she liked my tweet about that. So I was like, oh wow, Sydney, I haven't talked to Sydney in a while. And I was like, you know what? Let me ask her something. So I messaged her. And Sydney has always been super, super cool with me.
You ready to get down?
So she replied. So here's what I said. I know this is actually a wild inquiry, but if you ever want to pop on my show for 30 minutes or something in the future to give your take on this quartering mess, you're welcome and invited. And shockingly enough, she immediately responded. She said, the reason I'm not going, okay, hold on. This is not the, this is not the redacted version. I mean, it doesn't, to be fair, it's not a big deal, but just to have.
Should I get a table for
It,
myself?
be honest,
Started already, bitch.
if I showed it, but because it's not really very. But anyways,
Oops.
there we go.
Get here in a second.
So she said she didn't want to come on the show for a certain reason, and it's because the quartering.
Yes, that is a little
has
kitten.
threatened her directly with something. Okay, and the other person, there's another person involved. That there's multiple people involved that have threatened her with something. Okay, so she didn't want to do it. Now this changes pretty quickly. I'm gonna be honest, and we start getting pretty much in the nitty gritty. Okay.
Okay, let me get my jewel.
All right. Okay.
Get ready. Get in
Okay,
the zone.
let's
I don't want to listen to this because this is not
I
going to
actually
get
have a
me in
better
the
plan
zone.
to
You need
do
to like get.
Imagine I kind of got the vibe there was a bad falling out because she alluded to that immediately from the beginning. She says, "Yes, I fucking hate him," which I was like, "Oh damn." He literally could have made me less of an enemy if he just shut his fat fucking face when shit went down. Damn. But he could not help himself. I said I figured I would ask. I have to zoom in a lot, guys, so it's I have to keep pulling up the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. But I can just hit over.
Can I just get something that is not gonna like be annoying though? That'd be great.
All right.
Please. Come on. Give me my fucking cue, bro. How do I make this smaller? Oh, there it is. I just scroll down. Duh.
All right, you guys, happy Monday. Update for you. Erica Kirk did not, in fact, go home. I just have to say, no one bounces back faster from shootings than Erica Kirk. She really is remarkable in that way. This time, after saying she wanted to go home, us during a lecture about how she needed to go home to her family, she bounced over to Michigan to address the graduating class of Hillsdale College in a commencement speech. It's all over the place, the messaging, right? She's too scared to get on a plane by herself. Secret Service can't protect her. Oh, now she doesn't have Secret Service and she's back on stage at a school. Nonetheless, I don't know what to think, guys. What you should know is she was awarded an honorary doctorate. The internet has a lot to say about that. Also, we got to discuss this Charlie GPT thing that we have been hinting at because it's looking like there may be more legs to the story thanks to a source which came forward. You know, that infamous recording of Charlie saying, I appoint Erica Kirk. We're going to discuss that. And lastly, Nick Shirley. Do you remember him? We mentioned him one time on this show. Well, he went on to Patrick Bet David's show and said that I came for him. It's feeling a little over the top dramatic, but I'd like to actually address what his general presence in the media space signifies more broadly speaking, because it is important. Welcome back to Candace. first and foremost, happy belated Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. I hope you enjoyed special treatment. I know Andrew Colvett had a bit of a day. Bizarre trend over on X. So it looks like Project Constitution reported that Andrew Colvett was getting a divorce, and it was just not true. The basis of the report was not true. But boy, oh boy, did all of Turning Point USA rise up to defend Andrew Colvett's honor. I mean, Andrew himself hit back hard immediately. He basically turned into Will Smith at the Oscars. He wrote this: LOL, you wish, fat boy. And then he says, keep my wife's name out of your mouth and off your feed, and you'll have you'll have more problems than you bargained for. To everyone else, happy Mother's Day. And yeah, we can pull that clip in because it was definitely giving that energy of Will Smith if you want to play that clip. Keep my wife's name out your mouth. Yeah, that was the energy of that. And then it wasn't left there. Tyler Boyer then jumped into the fray to further defend Andrew's honor over a divorce rumor. I'm like, this is just like, I wake up and there are rumors about me getting a divorce. But Tyler Boyer said, we have had numerous things like this said about us. It is reckless disregard for truth from people who call themselves investigators. Okay, never one to be left behind. Blakey Neff jumped in. He wrote back to Project Constitution, you are not very smart, are you? And then when somebody asked a question about why Andrew's wife was not at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, Blake Neff insisted, he wrote back, again, this is just all, uh, Blake Neff wrote, instead of posting deranged rumor mongering at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, have you considered that you could look this up or use your brain? White House Correspondents' Dinners are all held by press outlets. Everyone else is there by invitation. How'd you even know he was offered a +1? Andrew lives in Phoenix and has 3 children. How do you know his wife would want to fly 5 hours across the country to attend one dinner? Okay, so strong. I by the way, I've never heard that Andrew Colvett is divorcing his wife. Like I said, bit of an aggressive response for a divorce rumor, which I literally think this happens like once a week when you're in the public space. Me, regarding that, I'm just forever amazed at what Turning Point USA and their execs choose to respond to, and the more important things that they remain mum on. Okay, like I said, apparently it was Project Constitution who sourced this rumor, and they were happy to respond to it, which means that they do not view him as a psychopathic knife wielding subway killer. So they responded, right? Because it has been, according to our count, and I'm keeping the count here on our desk, 39 long days since we reported that donors who were present in Aspen assert that the audio, which was shared by Turning Point USA, of Charlie saying, I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA. If something happens to me, she'll do a great job, was faked. This is what they are saying. I'm reporting that. They are saying that that was faked. It never happened. Charlie never said that. And Turning Point, for some reason, is refusing to drop the video of that moment saying this, of Charlie saying this. They're also refusing to even respond authoritatively. They could simply respond and assert that it absolutely was not faked and that the donors are lying. Their donors are lying. Big donors are lying. That feels a little bit suspicious to me. In fact, Blake has specifically expressed concern, you will recall, that if they do drop it, people will say it's AI. Wow, that's an oddly specific concern that you have about dropping this video. And I gotta tell you, the more I listen to it, the more AI it sounds to me. Take a listen. A lot of organizations and groups, as soon as a founder leaves, it just kind of collapses. A lot of my job is not always in the day-to-day details. It's very much vision casting, very much driving success. But we have a great board, and God forbid if something happens, they'll figure it out. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job. It just doesn't flow when you hear it. And it's also remarkably formal. I appoint my wife. If anything should happen to me, it's like exactly the sentence that he needed to say, he said. Not just like, oh, Erica can do it. Yeah, I mean, she'd be great at that, whatever. Hopefully, we don't have to think about that question until down the line. But I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA. In the event that anything happens to me, we would like a response on this. Are the donors lying? It's a possibility that for some reason the donors are conspiring to lie about this moment. A simple yes or no would do as a starting place, right? I think that would do just as a starting place. Yes, they are lying. No, they are not lying. And the video, which I would like to point out, Turning Point USA mentioned this video to us. Erica herself told Megyn Kelly an emotional story about what she felt like watching that video for the first time. The video of Charlie choosing her, violating suddenly his every public statement and sentiment that he had ever expressed in the past about women working, complete 180 from his prior positions. Please just drop the video. It's all we ask. And we're asking politely, by the way. And now we've learned even more interesting information because it turns out we can now definitively state that Turning Point does use AI voices for their presentations. You will recall in Aspen, Charlie was presenting to donors, and it turns out that Marcus Wada, we introduced you this guy. This is a Turning Point employee that's a rehabilitated former arms dealer. Okay, a former arms dealer who now works for Turning Point. This is a thing. A lot of them become pastors. They find God and they find Turning Point like at almost the same time. And Marcus Wada, one of the things that he offers is that he is able to create these AI voices for them to use for their presentations. So AI technology is what they currently use to voice over their Turning Point presentations. And typically, I am told they use the voice of Pastor John Amanchukwu. So if you're at a Turning Point event and you're hearing a presentation and you hear a guy speaking over, you're actually hearing Pastor John is not actually recording that. They're manipulating his voice, I'm sure with his permission, to speak over in the presentations. They basically take someone's voice and turn it into a narrator. And that is, by the way, unique. So it is an entirely reasonable question to ask, was the same thing done for Charlie posthumously? And I want to tell you the reason why we are going to continue to ask this question and why I'm keeping this on our desk now is because it's crucial. It's actually a crucial question. I'm starting to already see the creep of people who are trying to downplay the significance of that moment, right? People pivoting to, well, even if it is AI, why does it matter? I saw this. This is just one example of it, but John Mappin, who is the person who introduced Charlie to actually his biggest donor. Charlie's biggest donor was introduced to him by John Mappin, a donor so big that that donor was first in line on a list of donors who received personal phone calls from the hospital the day that Charlie died. And John Mappin was similarly told, he shared this on X, that a donor who was at that Aspen event said it never happened. Okay, it never happened. So this is going around. And when John Mappin shared that information, he was met with a response from Kimberly Klasick. She wrote this question: if the board elected Erica Kirk to be the CEO and none of the donors have come forward questioning the decision, why does it matter? The donors that contacted you are more than capable of contacting Blake, she continued. Okay, so I can answer that. I can answer why it matters. It matters because if it was, in fact, an AI audio and Erica was referring to an AI video clip, which they in the end decided not to use, this would tell us exactly who and what Erica Kirk is. Okay, it would put to rest any lingering questions that some people may have in the background if we are able to determine that she colluded to create a fake AI voice of her husband, announcing her to take over his company. If she was even emotionally capable of this, a mere weeks after he was horrifically and publicly murdered, if she was capable of then sitting across from Megyn Kelly and spinning a tale about her having seen this video and what it represented to her emotionally, a video which was never recorded because it never occurred, to justify her taking over the company that he built. And if Erica was then able to shamelessly walk out to the sound of a voice of her husband, which she knew was doctored by AI, right? Passing the torch to her. The company is mine. at AmFest while she wore glittering pantsuit and had fireworks going on behind her. She knew this was all AI and they planned this moment to make people feel emotional. Then we would have our answer. Erica would be a confirmed ruthless psychopath. Okay, you know that psychopath brandishing a weapon that Blake's concerned about? That would be Erica. Erica would be the kind of person that if you see on a subway, you should move if you're capable of that, because that would mean she was void of any and all human emotion. Capable of, I am being clear, I am not being dramatic. If this turns out to be real, I would assert that she is capable of real harm. She is dangerous. And I would extend that to every person around her.
You can't be eating my hair like that.
Monstrous plan. So Blake Neff, Andrew Colvett, we would be looking at a psychological profile of people that I would suggest are very much capable of cold-blooded murder. Okay, in my opinion, that this is my opinion. I am asserting that if you have the ability to do that, that's not just like, oh, husband died, I wanted to sign some papers and steal the will. It's like, how can we sell this to the public? We can create this AI video. You need to go out and sell this to Megyn Kelly. Say you saw the video, that it, you know, you were pulled by it, and then you're going to go out and we're going to have Charlie say it, but we can't show the video because the AI tech is not at the right place yet. So it's a little glitchy. So we can't show the video, but like, as long as people hear his voice, they're going to be moved to tears. And then we're going to bring out Nicki Minaj, and this is going to be your moment, baby. So make sure you have all that glitter and sparkles. If she was able to do that, truly take a second here. Just consider that in your mind. If we find that out, confirm this is AI. What does that signify about Erica? It signifies that she had that meeting, that it took place, and she was able to stomach it. She was able to stomach hearing her husband's voice intentionally manipulated after he was ruthlessly murdered. And she thought, okay, he's dead. What can he do for me? We can use his voice to have him hand over the company so people will not blink and they will not ask questions. There was no reason to do it. Like I said, that's what's even scarier. The only purpose was because she wanted people to accept her moving into his position. And it's becoming increasingly likely that that is the circumstance. It, like I said, would be beyond anything we've ever seen, a real life horror movie if it proves to be true. And I have to say, I do not believe there is any upside to the donors lying to me. I don't see the upside. They loved Charlie. They went there. They gave their money to Charlie. They don't need to be a part of this story. What is the upside for donors to come forward and to say, Candace, keep pressing. This did not happen, and I am certain it did not happen. And it is terrifying me that you're saying that they're out there telling people that this happened in Aspen. So you take your chance. You guys can take your bets on whether you believe Blake Neff and his subway killer scenario as the reason they won't release the video. Anyway, moving on from that, a fun update. Erica Kirk is, maybe she's now Dr. Erica Kirk. I know she said that she wanted to go home. She says a lot of stuff. She's in drapes. Nobody knows why. She told us that she was going to take some time to be with her family. Then she came in dressed like Janet Jackson. She yelled at me. She yelled at Drewski. She yelled at you for the fact that she had to go confront the wine bottles that were on the table. And then, like, I'm taking a break, but then actually now she's not taking a break again. It's a quick break, and she's back. She's always back very quickly. And we're probably going to get yelled at again that she had to even go get this speech done for Hillsdale College. And somehow it's always different. Erica can do whatever she wants, and we're just sort of left here holding the bag. She went to Michigan and to Hillsdale College to deliver a commencement address. Okay, it's her prerogative. I think we're all adjusted to this new program of Erica can do whatever she wants. And simultaneously, she accepted a posthumous doctorate degree for Charlie, honorary doctorate, and also an honorary doctorate for herself. And I want to be clear that people that are on the left and have been enduring people on the right saying DEI, people should not be hired on the basis of how they look. They should not receive achievements. It's a regular beat. And I do believe that, by the way. I'm anti-DEI as well. But they're on the internet and they have something to say about it. The internet is saying stands against everything that you guys preached. Why is she getting an honorary doctorate? What does she accomplish? And I'm just going to read one of these tweets. This is written by someone named Brian Allen. I don't know who this is, but they wrote, Hillsdale College, one of America's loudest opponents of DEI, just gave a woman an honorary doctorate and commencement speech opportunity because of who her husband is. That is the definition of DEI: diversity, equity, and inclusion for me and not for thee. So, conservatives, I hate to call balls and strikes here, but like, yeah, that's right. That is actually the very definition of DEI. Like I when people have someone come and give a commencement address, that's usually not the circumstances that you give someone an honorary doctorate for. Fair. I don't mind it. I get it. Like I said, I'm adjusted to this new program that she can do whatever she wants, and they're just going to keep handing her stuff, and she's just going to become more and more accomplished. And people that are calling this out and saying she's not qualified for this, welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Virtually Erica's entire educational background has sort of just been fictionalized. And when people began pointing this out, we got yelled at. This is just par for the Erica course. We keep being told it doesn't matter. Her husband died, right? She told when she was trying out for the American race with her ex-boyfriend, she never said, she never had a boyfriend before Charlie in 5 years before Charlie, but she did. And when they were trying out for the Great American Race, in the video that she submitted, she said that she graduated from ASU magna cum laude. Years later, she would edit that credential. She just kind of upgraded it on her LinkedIn page when she wrote that she graduated summa cum laude, right? With a double degree, I should mention, you can take a look at this, her LinkedIn page, in political science and international relations. This is the old LinkedIn page. It since has been removed. Turns out she didn't graduate magna cum laude, and she also didn't graduate summa cum laude. She didn't graduate with any honors, and she did not graduate with a double degree. That was all just made up for funsies, and she's put it on bios. So this is not like, oh, this was one mistake and I had an intern that typed a button wrong. It's been put on bios. In fact, ASU did not even offer the international relations degree at all in 2012. Baron Coleman, some other people online dug up the dug up everything from the past to see if the catalog even offered it. The answer is no. So she just made it up. And we're not allowed to ask questions. Not the only thing she made up. Pull that up again. You will also see on her LinkedIn that she has Doctor of Education, that she received that in Christian leadership from Liberty University. That is factually untrue. That's made up. She took a couple of credits toward that goal, but she never accomplished it. Just a couple of credits toward the goal. When her and Charlie were together, and then she decided that was enough, and she could assert that she had this Doctor of Education. She doesn't. Our fault for noticing, our fault for fact checking her background at all. How dare we? Her husband died, and she's allowed to compulsively lie about everything all the time. And if you are a person that thinks, hey, if you have a profile of an individual who compulsively lies about everything, that person should probably not be put into a leadership role. If you feel that way, you're the monster and you're demonic. There were so many holes and so many lies in the Erica Kirk background and story that we had to choose. We had to like think about editing. How are we going to tell the Erica Kirk story when we did Bride of Charlie? We had to just leave a lot of them. Okay, if we're just going to let her go with that lie. We never even covered that the whole educational background is made up. Virtually the entire. I mean, she did receive her master's from Liberty University online, but she just keeps adding credentials. So I say more power to her. I think we should call her Dr. Erica Kirk. I think we should lean in to the absurdity of where we're at right now as a society, where everyone can see what she is. And apparently she's a part of the elite class of people. Let's call it the Epstein class of people who just don't have to answer. There's no consequences for anything, and they can make us the bad guys for noticing. So I salute you, Dr. Kirk. We'll be back after a brief break. All right, you guys, imagine waking up one day and seeing gold at $6,000 an ounce. It might sound surprising, but it's exactly what some experts are predicting could happen as soon as this year. We've all watched gold steadily climb over the past few years, and right now, with global tensions, rising energy costs, and ongoing economic uncertainty, many analysts believe gold could continue that upward trend. In fact, one major bank is forecasting gold could go even higher, potentially reaching $6,300 an ounce. And big institutions don't make calls like that lightly. So the real question is, are you positioned to benefit if that happens?
If you've ever thought about adding gold or silver to your portfolio, now might be the time to take a closer look. That's why I recommend checking out Goldco. They will send you a free gold and silver guide to help you understand your options. And right now, you may even qualify for up to 10% in bonus gold or silver just for getting started. It's simple, it's informative, and it could be a smart move in uncertain times. So head over to CandiceLikesGold.com to learn more. Again, that's CandiceLikesGold.com. I also want to remind you guys about Pure Talk because take a moment to think about what you're paying for your wireless service. If it's $70, $80, or even $90 a month, it's okay. So I have been trying to stress to you that we are kind of barreling toward a society of make believe. It's very scary. Actually, if you just pause for a second and consider it, it's very strange that they're trying to see if they can sort of force us to believe things that are just not so. And they become angry and they become insistent and they spend more money and they're just getting influencers that go out there and I mean, I felt this way, by the way, when the transgender thing was happening. I was very vocal against this. It's like there's a difference between a woman and a man, and they just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And it's like you can, wear the clothes that you want to wear and feel how you feel, but there is such a thing as reality. Okay. And now we've moved away from that becoming a social issue. And it was always, obviously political, but we're starting to see this in politics. We're starting to see them. And that, of course, is the example with Dr. Kirk and her entire background, which makes no sense. Where the entire world notices that this is what the Erica Kirk story feels like. It feels to me, if you're a conservative, like it felt when we were going through the transgenderism argument, where we all know that this is not right. So maybe some people are pretending to be nice. It's actually a perfect analogy here. A lot of people who I know who initially were like, yeah, let's support transgenderism. It's not because they believed it. They just were like, it's just nice. It's a nice thing to do, right? I would say a lot of lefties found themselves in that category. That person feels that way, let them feel that way. And it's the same thing with the Erica Kirk story where they're just ignoring the facts. They're ignoring all the lies. And they're just like, well, it's just nice because her husband died that we shouldn't even consider whether or not she's lying about things or whether or not she's helping to cover up certain things that would help us solve the mystery of how her husband died. And she's not acting right. She's not acting like a grieving widow. I'm going to give you another example of this, like recently. This Nick Shirley guy, this thing that is going on, okay? It's now getting weird enough that I do feel the need to comment and weigh in. I didn't even know that this was a beef that I accidentally stumbled upon, that people were saying like the term that they use here is fed jacketed. Like essentially he's being created by the media. There are a lot of people that are like that. I would say Barry Weiss is a perfect example. Like we all know she's not qualified to be an executive at CBS. They just don't care. They're just, there you go, Barry Weiss. And this Nick Shirley thing is one of the weirdest non-beefs that I have ever had. So I'm going to back up here and say did not follow at all the quote unquote rise of Nick Shirley. He's 24 years old. It was, if I recall, like very quickly after the Charlie Kirk assassination. He was sort of introduced first on the Charlie Kirk show on the day he died. Remember, we covered that. That's the reason I covered him on the show on September 10th when I was trying to work through timelines and I made a mistake. And I completely owned that mistake and had a conversation with him. Right after the Charlie Kirk assassination, suddenly I was not emotionally available to look at other topics, to cover other topics. I was not interested in other trends. And suddenly we have this kid, 23 years old, I think he was last year. And they say Nick Shirley has uncovered massive welfare fraud in the Somalian community in Minnesota. Okay, a friend of mine just got shot in the neck. Don't really care to follow the story. Daycare fraud. Great, thumbs up. Did not peek beyond that at all. I want to be perfectly clear here. I did not watch or read even 1 minute of what he uncovered. So color me completely ignorant of the welfare fraud story in Somalia. Just being honest with you, I didn't have it in me then, and I just truly did not care. Okay. So then fast forward to me mentioning Nick Shirley on the show, and I was like, okay, who is this guy? And I was quite stunned that there was this video out there of him saying that he infiltrated the most dangerous gang in Brazil in 48 hours. Like that's so objectively stupid and ignorant. You have to be so ignorant to even believe it. That's just be a headline that your brain automatically rejects, right? A 23-year-old kid, absent any connections, infiltrated a gang in 48 hours is like they are trying you right now. They're not even trying to give us like good slop anymore. Like we're beneath the level of Fed slop with this, right? It's just stupid. It's nothing personal, Nick Shirley. It's just dumb when you hear it that a person infiltrate a 23-year-old kid, and I did say a white boy for a reason, which I will explain, infiltrated the most dangerous gang in Brazil by himself with cameras. Okay. Anyway, Nick Shirley, after I said this on my show, the next day it was like trending, and all of these people, the people I trust the least, by the way, I mean, like Tim Pool, everyone's like writing these statements like Nick Shirley got punched in the face by me because I'm not an idiot. I don't have to look deeper into that story. It's obviously objectively on its face untrue and made up. I don't know if it's for entertainment. I don't know if it's for funsies. I don't know the purpose of making up something like that. I've just lived a little bit of life and know that that's not how it works. And so PBD, who has just been sort of taking swipes at me for like since Charlie Kirk died, you know, he notoriously hosted the person who said, I didn't speak to Charlie since, you know, 2019. We hadn't spoken. We were at war with each other, whatever. I don't care. You know, it's just add it to the pile of people who are constantly just making little snide comments on me. But Nick PBD, who was one of the people who issued a kind statement about Nick Shirley because, gasp, Candace doesn't believe that he infiltrated a gang in 48 hours, hosted him on his show. And they show the clip of what I said, and the PBD's pretending he had no idea. He completely already knew I said this. Even the whole little scene you're going to watch between them is just so contrived. It just bothers me on a level of why do we have to live in this soap opera? Why are we all sim characters? Who is pulling the strings? Anyway, I want you to listen to this conversation that they have.
Who in the market is supporting you? Who in the market is criticizing you that you're surprised on the conservative side? Are there people who are like, Nick, go, you're doing great. And then there's people that are like, yeah, I don't know if I like what he's doing.
Candace Owens came after me a while back. That was very interesting.
Why would Candace Owens come after you?
I don't know. She like didn't believe my Brazilian favela video, and
Oh, it's not even so you're talking, this is a couple years ago.
no, this
recent.
is like recent. She's like, white boy. I'm like, it was very like snarky of her to do this.
Interesting. This is it?
Yeah.
Well, which video is that? Is that a recent video?
Last summer.
Just gonna say I don't believe that at all. I'm sorry. I just it's so stupid. I'm not even gonna tell you why I don't believe it. It's like if you don't know that that's stupid, that he infiltrated the gang in 48 hours. Like it's just that's so dumb. I'm so tired of dumb. That's not how that works. Okay, you don't just go up to gangs on the street as a nice looking white boy with a camera and say, "Hey, I just wanted to sort of like see what you're doing here. What's going on?" Okay, that's just stop. That's stupid. Of course, that's dumb. I'm sorry, Nick. I know you're young. I hope, you know, whoever is your contact that has you infiltrating Antifa and infiltrating El Salvador at the age of 23 years old, it just feels like Sean Penn young to me.
Meaning
Like-
your handler or you're representing somebody?
Like she's basically saying that's fake.
She's saying
Yeah.
that's fake.
And I'm like, well, maybe these podcasters would actually leave their podcast studios. No offense, Pat. They leave their podcast studios and go and like do journalism. Like they'd actually see like stuff just sometimes just happens.
It was that last part that really sent me because it's just so LOL. And then this whole like, oh, why don't you try to do real journalism and like leave your basement from podcasting? Alex Clark kind of backed this up too because like she can't miss an opportunity. Turning Point can't miss an opportunity because I think I took from them what they believe is rightfully theirs. But she wrote this: Nick Shirley is a real journalist. Candace Owens is not. Oh, okay. So we're in a podcast. We're in the basement. Hey, Nick. So the reason why we know that that doesn't make sense actually is because you have to be the most sheltered person in the world to even have to need it to be explained to you, and that's not plausible. Okay, it's not a job. Okay, people just live in these scenarios. People like literally, I have 5-year-olds in my family who have seen more and lived through more than you've probably ever lived through in your life. The circumstance itself did not happen, and I cannot tell you how much it frustrates me that you're pretending that I'm coming from a position of privilege when it's actually the exact opposite. You couldn't do this in Chicago. You couldn't do this in Detroit. Forget in a favela in Brazil. Places like that, which I have Brazilians in my family, you don't even go to parts in Brazil without having someone who is from that place and from that neighborhood. So no, it's not about podcasting in my basement. I actually lived a lot of life, Nick Shirley, before I got to podcasting in my basement, before I was married, before I had children. In fact, I moved down to South America for 2 months to learn Spanish with very strict instructions. The school that I enrolled in, don't wear any jewelry, don't wear any makeup, don't look American. You don't just go down there. As I said, and why I'm pointing out the fact that you are a white boy is because you don't look like them. The whole idea when you're down there is to blend in, not to come with the camera, a Mormon kid from Utah with the camera. Hey, what's the most dangerous game in this favela? Can I infiltrate in 48 hours? It just didn't happen. It didn't even kind of happen. And like I said, that could only work. You'd have to sell this to billionaires, right? You could only make people who have never touched their own door handles. Like you'd have to grow up like Paris Hilton and go somewhere where Nick Shirley is and he tells you about how he infiltrated a favela and she would think that that's plausible because she's never even been to like a dangerous gas station. That's how fake that is. Like there are gas stations on the New Jersey Turnpike that people you couldn't infiltrate. You couldn't buy a bag of chips and feel safe, okay? And you're trying to tell us that you're just a 23-year-old kid who infiltrated a favela in 48 hours. I don't need to pierce beyond the layer. I've just lived these things. I've lived these circumstances, and so have the majority of people. And so I don't understand the purpose of Nick Shirley. I didn't know there was this huge scandal, and then subsequently found out that people, think he's fed jacketed. I wasn't trying to hit upon that. I just watched the video and had a reaction to how stupid it was that they're trying to sell it. They're not even giving us good psyops anymore. They have such low respect for us. You couldn't go to trailer parks and do that. There are certain trailer parks, a lot of them, that you couldn't go through and do that. Like you would get harmed. And by the way, it's irresponsible to suggest to 23-year-old kids that they can do this. I actually find it to be irresponsible. Like, yeah, you want to be like Nick Shirley, you can just go down with the camera, no connections, and you'll suddenly arrive and
Give them
be
the
welcomed
chair.
into a gang. They'll be holding guns and you're perfectly safe. He's just that amazing. His words are just that gentle and just that kind. That you would have obviously stood out, Nick, as a white boy walking through a favela with a camera. They would look, there's just a certain natural thing that happens. You stand out in the jungle. Oh, this does not look like someone that should be here. You could say the same thing. If you put any person, if you put a gangster rapper and you put them up in the suburbs where they haven't seen a person with melanin in over a century, they go, that person is standing out there with their uh, jeans down low, maybe, below their butts or something like that. You just would look odd, and it is the exact opposite of anybody who has lived and been around these areas. You know that you don't do that. It's a basic survival thing. You don't do that. I have family reunions Nick Shirley couldn't infiltrate and survive. That's just the reality. Like, so this whole like tough boy, because they don't leave their basement, you sound sheltered. You sound sheltered that you think that because I podcast today, that I didn't live a lot more yesterdays, way more aggressive yesterdays than you've ever lived in your entire life. That's why I laughed, Nick, because it's so implausible that you did that. And the other thing that I want to add here is just more broadly speaking, I don't know why they're doing this now. And I do think we're getting to this sort of stage of idiocracy, whether we're talking about the Erica Kirk thing, everyone can see it. That is so painfully and obviously untrue. Whether we're talking about the Nick Shirley thing, it's like they've calculated to a point where they should just be able to, with X amount of dollars, with this amount of influencers, and with this much power behind a political party, whether it's we're going to get Trump to support this person, or, we're going to get Kamala Harris support this person. It's like an equation that they're just like, this equals success. And we're rejecting that. We have to hold on to common sense. Like, we all just have to know that Nick Shirley did not infiltrate a gang in 48 hours. We all just have to know that it is not normal for a woman whose husband was assassinated in broad daylight to 6 days later be on a Zoom call laughing about emojis. Like, we should all say, nope, doesn't pass the sniff test, and I'm just not going to have you explain to me. I'm not going to like make you like pretend that this is some sort of controversy because I have common sense. They're trying to make it illegal to think. Like, it's illegal to just know things spiritually, instinctively, intuitively, doesn't pass the sniff test. And I just feel like we have to hold firm on that. So I don't mean to use Nick Shirley as an example. I don't care to further wade into the controversy of people who are talking about his background and saying that he's been created. I tend to just look at how people react when I point out the obvious to know that he's got some backing behind him, right? He's up here crying about a little remark about favela. Like, okay, it didn't happen. So take that or leave that. He is being pushed upon us for some reason. I don't know what that reason is. By the way, yeah, he's now going to Cuba, guys. No connections. He's just going to Cuba. He claims he went to Cuba. He was almost taken hostage. Man, this is the bravest kid in the entire world. And of course, this headline from yesterday: will the U.S. invade Cuba? It tells us that spy flights there are surging. There are new sanctions, and we all know the CIA is involved in Cuba at this moment. So I don't find the timing of Nick Shirley. I find everything about him to be suspicious. I would say, for one, look at these videos.
Hey, speaking of Brazil,
because that none of this is natural. Neither is like the fake feigned surprise of PBD. Oh, I'm so surprised that Candace came after you. Like, completely ridiculous. Anyway, we'll take a brief break before I get to some of your comments. All right, you guys, do you maybe owe back taxes, have years of unfiled returns, or maybe you file every year and still can't get ahead because the balance keeps growing? A lot of people get blindsided after retirement. Maybe you withdrew money from a 401k or IRA and suddenly got hit with a tax bill that you never expected. Whatever caused the problem, one thing is certain: the IRS penalties and interest keep adding up every single month. If you don't have a plan now, you could end up owing even more next tax season. Before the IRS starts sending more letters, garnishing wages, or freezing your bank account, call Tax Network USA. They've been helping taxpayers nationwide for more than 15 years, resolving back taxes, unfiled returns, and serious IRS problems. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Right now, they're offering a free IRS shortcut, special your home month Bolton. 100 American finance. The term would say someone's Fed jacketed doesn't mean that this person is a Fed themselves. It just means that they clearly have connections with the government and they are being sort of just kind of put upon us, hoisted upon us. We don't really know why. And I would just say that that's just common sense. It doesn't pass the sniff test for me. I'm just going to hold that opinion. I'm not going to investigate. I'm not
nothing for you.
Surely it was such a non-item on my show that the fact that he's like trying to extend it into some beef is ridiculous. Like, the fact that it was even trending after I said it. Like,
I'm gonna switch over to TikTok.
People we trust the least. All be like, he's supposed to amazing.
Yes,
I can't
it is
believe you had
chocolate.
to
Hold
survive
on.
someone.
Yeah, so at Trader Joe's, these are the cocoa truffles. It's a real truffle. It's a scoop of ganache rolled in cocoa powder. This is what those chocolate candies that you get for someone on Valentine's Day wish they could be. This was $3.95 for a whole shitload of them. Just so you know, Trader Joe's is cheaper than Walmart. Everything they have there is really good quality, and it still costs less or the same as the cheap shit at Walmart. I didn't know that. I've never been to Trader Joe's because I thought it was an expensive place like Market of Choice or what's that place at the Amazon? I don't ever go there. The food place that's all fancy. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, Trader Joe's is literally amazing. I had no idea how amazing it was. But it is amazing. And like I said, it's not expensive. You would think that Trader Joe's would be super duper expensive and like cost, way more than Walmart, and it would be so hard to shop there. I bought 20 frozen meals for me and Josh and Elliot. Half went to his house, half came here. Less than half came here because I don't have as much freezer space. But I also got necessities: milk, cheese, bread. I got Josh some miso paste. And I got fancy frozen food. I got obvious chicken nuggets for Elliot, chicken tenders rather. I also got mini tacos, mini chicken tacos, and I got like these stout pies that are full of meat and sauce. I got latkes, potato pancakes. I got butter chicken, paneer, chicken vindaloo, a bunch of different Indian things, a bunch of different Asian things. I got pot stickers, pierogies. I'm talking about, I like got all kinds of shit. Pasta meals, baked meals, whatever. You want to know how much I spent for all that food? $137. That is it. If I bought that same amount of shit at Walmart, just the frozen meals alone would have been $137. The amount of frozen meals that I got. And like, you know, they would have been like $12. It would have been $12 for the frozen chicken, the chicken tenders, the like nugget things or whatever. It was like $7 or $6 instead of $14, which is what it costs at Walmart. I'm obsessed with Trader Joe's now. No, Kroger's is like Fred Meyer here. I don't like Kroger actually. It's overpriced. Fred Meyer is way too expensive. But Kroger Foods is Trader Joe's is a subsidiary of Kroger Foods Inc. Oh yeah, I charged my tablet so I can look at the I'm gonna look at the drawing. I think I'm gonna switch over to TikTok, guys, because like, well, now you guys are commenting, so I'm here. But like, there's no real action happening. Nothing really going on. Everyone expects me to be the conversation starter, and I'm working. And I want to watch something copywritten, actually, to be quite honest. So if I switch to TikTok, I won't get banned immediately. Are you done charging? Guess so. What? I love you too. Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love you so much. Yeah. Whoa, Jesus, titty effing thing. What, dude? What? 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 I think she noticed some of the kittens are missing. Oh, you don't have to apologize. It's really truly it's the copywritten stuff. She's looking for the missing couple of you-know-what-skis. Hey, whoa, Jesus! Yeah, that's what you get. She was trying to step on my laptop to get what she wants out of me. Bitch. What? 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 What's wrong? Did your sister make that look climbing up look fun? You want to go try it? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go play if you want. You don't have to live here and take a nap. Go play. Go play. Go play. Okay, so here's this start over here then, I guess. Ouch. Money, you're gonna drop it on yourself again. It's gonna fall. So think about what you're doing before you do what you're doing. Yeah, I totally see what you're doing. Yep. I see you sitting on the what you think is the computer. Daggum. Okay, just do what Heather wants because this is Heather's world. More Heather's. Dag. I didn't know any better. I would be convinced that there is a kitten chewing on my hair. Do not climb up my side. Thank you. Nope. No, ma'am. Get down. No. You guys are funny. Thank you. Can I help you? Hi, everyone. Listen. Why are you like this? Just throw your hands in a girl and wave for my just don't kick girl. And if you like fish and grits and all that neat shit, appreciate. Tell me why there's a tickle on my leg hair. Tell me why is that a kitten crawling up my leg? I need a flashlight. Thanks for that. Really appreciate that. That is absolutely what I wanted my brand new fucking MacBook to do. How did you know? How did you
Would say when you
know?
go to a favela, that in and of itself feels inauthentic. It's not the normal way to react to someone saying, yeah, don't buy that one. And like I said, I wasn't aware of the history of people who had gone after him and showed whatever the connections were. And I don't care. I'm investigating. I just don't care enough onto bigger things, more important things, like I said, which for me is the Charlie Kirk assassination. A top comment from last episode, Fran Van writes, I think Erica hit the 6th stage of grief, which is bridal shots. Yes, you guys. I think you're with me, just very confused about why she was in the drapes. I don't know what was going on. I know that I couldn't do that when I was a kid. My mom would say, get out them drapes right now. She just did that or whatever. And it was very bridal. And next thing you know, like I said, we were being shouted at. Alex B writes, I desperately need an Erica Kirk South Park episode. Yes. Oh my. That would be amazing. Obviously, we would get in so much trouble. So much trouble. But I think it's worth it if we are in trouble. We're already in trouble all the time with the mainstream media. So that might happen. Like I said, Charlie would have left that stuff that we see that Erica has taken Petruski's skit deadly serious for some reason. And for the record, the people that were trying to turn it into something racial, like Andrew Velvet, now do like black conservatives. He does every race. If you know Drewski's skits, he makes fun of Vietnamese people. He dressed up like he was a Vietnamese person, did this whole nail salon thing. So it's this. It was not because of her race that he did that. And just last week, he dropped a massive video where he was targeting Black British actors, and it was hilarious. We just laughed at it. So I hate to see that the right has become the things that we hated about the left, like not able to just take a joke on its face. Nobody got hurt in him mocking Erica Kirk. Clearly, she got her feelings hurt, but it's because she takes herself apparently way too seriously, or maybe she was just promised that she would be protected and everyone was just going to love her. And I think she's quite surprised that the opposite thing seems to be what they accomplished. And the reason for that is because she just comes across inauthentic and dishonest. And they had no response for all of the various lies, inconsistencies, inaccuracies that we have pointed out. They just keep saying demonic. Send out the pastor. Send out the pastors and tell them it's demonic. It's demonic. No, lies are actually, in fact, satanic. Satan is the author of lies. So if you're looking to people who have been telling the truth, or people who are trying to get at the truth, and I will say, do we make mistakes sometimes? Absolutely. But at least we have it in our heart that when we do those mistakes, we course correct, we apologize, and we move on. You guys are on a level of arrogance that when you get literally just caught lying, you yell at us. She doesn't show up to an event, and you have JD Vance lecture us. Get out of my face, JD Vance. I'm sorry. I actually really disliked him after that. Like, he's sitting up there on the stage yelling at us because she doesn't want to go to the event because no one wants to hear her speak. But that's so backwards, and it's so abusive and narcissistic to do that to people. You want to make commitments. You wanted to be Charlie Kirk so bad that you allegedly made a whole AI video saying your husband wanted you, and we all deep down spiritually know that is untrue. Okay, Charlie didn't change his mind 2 weeks before he died. We know what he thought. We have hours, 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 and hours of footage of Charlie Kirk saying women should stay home. You wanted to put on your big girl glitter pants and take his role and be CEO and chairman. Well, guess what? Life's tough. Get a helmet. Okay. No one feels bad for you because you have to deal with criticism that Charlie had to deal with for the last 10 years. And he took it gracefully. He thought. He answered the questions. He allowed people to go through his life. I've had to do the same thing. Nobody's crying for me when my family's getting attacked. And all of a sudden, you just think that what this was supposed to be. I dubbed the Erica Kirk, the CEO of Turning Point USA. Nobody asked any questions. What is that? Wrong country, sweetheart. No, we don't do the king and queen IWB stuff here. So if you can't take the heat, get the hell out of the kitchen, Erica. That's just the reality. Just get out of the kitchen, step down, go away, and pretend to be a grieving widow. That works for everybody. Anyway, a little too fired up here. I'm going to move on to your comments from today's episode. We have Bill K writes, Christ is King, Mary is Queen, and Candace is a princess. Happy late Mother's Day. Thank you so much. No, the only princess in this house is my daughter. She's definitely a princess. Um, she's just working in these days, man. Just so fast. They just know what to say to get what they want. I'm being outworked by toddlers over here. Moderator Marzi writes, hey Candace, I know you were covering it early today, but I wanted to let you know that the quartering has messed with you on X and is now facing a potential lawsuit involving false flagging and deplatforming other YouTube channels, as well as for doxing and harassment. It's very interesting. I did not know that. I will look into that. I have no idea.
Oh shit, Jeremy.
These comments live, so I was expecting that one, and I can't really add anything to that. But I thank you for giving that tip. Mrs. MPK writes, what's your response to reporting that during your private interview, Erica Kirk gave you Brian Harpole's alibi for the alleged Fort Huachuca sighting? Did you ask Erica for her alibi during your meeting? Ops doing the most. This merits a clarification. Yeah, no, absolutely. She gave me I thought it was very strange. So my thought process, just to remind you guys who listen to this all, because this is going to come out in the filings, and I actually am thinking about doing the Brian Friedman thing, which was obviously the lawyer with Justin Baldoni, where he just put it all online because I have nothing to hide. So the timeline on that is when I had received the email from Mitch, it was Mitch's friend that emailed me, and I called him, and he said his story. He was clear that he saw Brian Harpole and he saw Erica, but he said he saw Erica Kirk on the 8th, and she wasn't leaving a meeting. Brian Harpole he saw on the 9th, and he was leaving the meeting on Fort Huachuca base, and that was when the cops were called, all of that. And you have to remember, like, at this particular time, I didn't suspect Erica, and I felt like she was under a lot of pressure. And I didn't want to unnecessarily put a spotlight on her because he saw her at a hotel. It wasn't related to the meeting. He didn't see her with Brian. And I knew that her mom and her
FaceTime audio, Grandpa Josh. No, it's a kitten on the floor. Be right back. I have to call my kiddo. There we go. All right.
Brian Harpole. You go back and you watch that. I said he saw Brian Harpole on the night. Right? Moved Erica from the entire instantly. The next day, Erica did.
Oh, hi, Sissy.
Stop tour. And Erica suddenly was very panicked about this. So it's almost to me like she knew that if we got Mitch onto the show, he was going to tell the other part, which was that he saw Erica. Like there was some, like she did, it was the, not the 5, the Harrison, what is her name on Fox News? I'm totally blanking on her name. If you guys remember telling me, uh, Harrison Faulkner is her name, I think. Yeah, she went on Harris Faulkner. Sorry, Harris Faulkner. She went on that show, and then she was all fired up for the first time, and like, conspiracy theories need to stop. That was the very next day. So I was like, that's interesting because we didn't mention the Erica part yet. Does she know something that like felt weird? And the day after that, she did Barry Weiss, and they cut the clip of her saying, "What do you have to say to the podcaster Candace Owens?" I then would later find out that they had planned that the question answer segment. She's like, "Stop, just stop." Then I got Justin Strife. That backfires. Justin Strife emails us, and we're off for the weekend because I said I'm going to interview Mitch next. I had said that. I get Ian Carroll calling me, and he's got Paramount, Valhalla, the YouTuber Green Beret, basically already threatening me, like, don't interview Mitch. That was what was coming up. I wanted to interview Mitch, as I said, or else he's going to sue. So I'm getting threatened with a lawsuit before I even interview Mitch, and I'm like, dude, what's up? So I messaged Brian Hartwell, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm going to have this guy Mitch on, but like, I could also, like, if you want to debunk it, I'm happy to do. I don't know this guy, but this reaction doesn't feel organic.
You better go get him.
Everybody seems to be panicking.
You better go get them.
John, he doesn't answer, so I'm like, okay. Then Erica comes and we sit down. They scheduled it for Monday, and you remember, so they were still thinking I was going to have Mitch on my show. Then they scheduled it during the block where I would normally have my show. They said, let's have a ceasefire. No one's going to talk. And then they posted Paramount Tactical.
I should probably close the windows the rest of the way really quickly.
On the show, I was in a hotel for 4 hours. And I thought it was, she said to me, patient breakdown.
Oh no, my computer!
You're gonna fire Brian. Why are you concerned about this alibi so much that you're handing it to me? And then we look at it, I looked at it, and
Watch the different device. Oh. She's a kitty mama. Everybody is okay, Mama. Your babies are okay. Oh, I have the box right here. Damn, I wish I had been able to show you this. This is the cocoa truffle box. It's like a trapezoid kind of shape. It's like a little wider on the bottom than it is on the top. And these are literally the most delicious chocolates on the fucking planet. And they're just a scoop of ganache, the perfect amount, and it's rolled in cocoa. These are the most delicious ever. If you know, you know. Money, there's food over there if you go get it. You already didn't eat it, and so the flies got it. There are fly eggs in it? I don't know, but I don't trust it, so you can't have it anyway. I'll go throw this away. Here. Oh. Here you go, you fat pig. I'm not going to be feeding you quite as much because you're not nursing quite as many babies, and you're going to be nursing no babies as of tomorrow. So I know you think that your babies are missing. No, I'm sorry. They're not missing though. I got rid of them. I mean, they are missing, but they're not lost. Dude, you know the drill. Whenever it's that time, I've been telling you for 2 days it's that time. I warned you. As soon as the babies needed to go to the front door, they have to leave the house because I cannot keep them safe inside. So I can't be having no baby kitties leaving my house while I'm at work, sneaking out the windows and shit, or falling out the window. Something like that. I'm not going to be stressing out about that shit all day at work. I can't live like that. I live in a bus, yes. Oh, look at that. My kid was on YouTube. Know how I know? It's signed into his YouTube account. Little shit. I hate fucking breathing with masks on. You're such a baby. You're not actually suffocating. You're fine. I don't want to watch this guy yell for fucking 2 hours, dude.
Guys, I might have to switch over to TikTok because I want to watch something that is probably like copywritten, and I can't do that here. I just kind of want to watch a documentary. Yep. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna switch over to TikTok. So it'll be TikTok. The name on there is Rugged Tuft Live. All one word. There's Rugged Tuft and then there's Rugged Tuft Live. Those are my only 2 accounts. Anything else is one of those stalker crazy bitches. All right, see me over there. Thank you guys for the liking of the stream. I super appreciate it. And I might be back here in a little bit. Oh, wait, you know what? Wait a minute. No, I'm not going to TikTok. I'm actually banned from TikTok right now because I said that common sense isn't so common and that people's baseline is mostly retardation. I forgot. I'm banned. Never mind. I'm not leaving. So, no copyright shit for you, Heather. All right. Let's watch a documentary on Chanel.
Chanel is easily one of the most impactful privately owned companies in fashion today. One of the last ones to exist, in fact. That's because
Actually,
the family behind it knew how to navigate
watch this
through
after.
hardships over the last about its book out of the 3 films.
Sure,
Even past chapters that went. Chanel is easily one of the most impactful privately owned companies.
Okay.
Joe Rogan did not start his podcast trying to become one of the most
Watch Lord of the Rings.
on the planet. He seemed like an authentic dude who was just famous enough to get access to extraordinary people, but his platform may have gotten too big and too valuable for the elites to ignore. What started as casual conversation with comedians and weirdos turned into serious conversations with billionaires and politicians. For over a decade, fans felt like they really understood Joe, but these days he has become the exact thing he used to hate about modern media, which has resulted in millions of his viewers checking out. His podcast has dropped from #1 in the world to #5 and could continue to go down. However, anyone who's been watching for a while knows this didn't happen overnight. There were actually 6 key decisions that he made that slowly turned Joe Rogan into a shell of what he used to be. The first sign that everything was about to change for the worse was in 2020 when Joe Rogan signed an exclusive licensing deal with Spotify reportedly worth $100 million. Now, this was life-changing money that most people would understandably take without hesitation, but it would cause a ripple effect that would slowly change Rogan's reputation forever. The first thing that came with the new deal was censorship. Spotify deleted 113 episodes or 300 hours of content from the JRE library. Some of those episodes included conversations with comedians like Joey Diaz, Brazilian mixed martial artist Rickson Gracie, and notorious conspiracy theorists like Brian Dunning and Alex Jones. It felt like a slap in the face to the fans because the wide variety of guests was what made the show so interesting. Sometimes JRE was genuinely educational, with scientists, doctors, or journalists having deeply nuanced conversations you couldn't get anywhere else.
While we're on this subject of subatomic particles and weirdness, I want to, if you could, illuminate this often misused explanation for the observer effect.
Other times, it was Rogan joking around with comedians and telling stupid stories.
And I was making like a nice smoothie and I'm up, I'm partying, living high on the hog. I thought I heard something outside, right? So I leave out of my apartment to go in the hallway, lock myself out with the blender going. 2:30 in the morning, out of my brain. Now I have to go to my landlord, dude, who lives right down the hall.
But the most important thing was that absolutely nothing was off limits, no matter how ridiculous it seemed.
Some guy asked me the other day if I wanted to have someone who's a flat earth proponent
is apparently the best arguer for a flat earth. I want to hear that. I want to hear that argument. What can they possibly say? Of course it's strong, but the one thing that's weird is you would think with all the satellites we have going in and out of our solar system, how come there's no pictures of the Earth? Like the sun over there. So many pictures of this. Good point. Back then, you could feel Rogan's curiosity through the screen. There was no agendas, no hidden messages, just an authentic guy trying to chat with interesting people. JRE had a similar appeal as a late night talk show, except these conversations lasted 3 hours instead of a few minutes. Plus, it didn't feel like a polished corporate product. It felt like you were sitting in the room with an interesting guest and you could count on Joe to keep the conversation fresh and engaging with good questions.
People that are listening to this are probably going, "What is gauge symmetry, dude? You just passed over that and you said it was crazy."
Okay,
Is there a way that you could possibly just give a small synopsis?
Sure, we'll try. We'll see how we do. Even when political topics were discussed, especially when there were disagreements, the conversations remained level-headed and cordial, which is why Spotify removing Joe's content seemed like an obvious sign of corporate censorship. But Rogan vehemently disagreed with that.
Right, but here's listen, me on the outside reading these articles. Yeah. Like, oh my God, Spotify's censoring Rogan. Spotify's doing this.
It's not happening.
Spotify has said nothing. Nothing. Yeah. They haven't said anything to my manager. They haven't said anything to me. In terms of like them silencing me, zero. Right. There's been nothing.
This is ironic because just a few years before, Rogan heavily criticized YouTube for deleting and demonetizing right-wing political content.
It's dangerous towards the marketplace of free ideas. The marketplace of ideas is
His
extremely
voice is so funny in that.
and I would think that if anybody would know that, it would
High
be the
pitch.
people that are involved in tech. They're just so wrapped up in the progressive mindset.
Ultimately, the Spotify deal had more positives than negatives. JRE remained the top podcast in the world, and now he was filthy rich. But the second key decision he made was moving his entire business and family from Los Angeles to Austin, Texas. At the time, it seemed like a completely normal decision. Plenty of wealthy people were leaving LA for Texas. Lower taxes, similar warm weather, and a city like Austin still offered the creative environment someone like Joe Rogan would want. But looking back, after he relocated, the version of Rogan people thought they knew started to disappear. But real quick, let's say you're about to board a plane and you notice one of the engines is smoking. There's a good reason why you wouldn't trust that plane. Just like there's a good reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting for the people for over 35 years. With over $30 billion recovered for their clients, Morgan & Morgan knows a thing or two about fighting to get you the compensation you deserve. Hiring Morgan & Morgan is like hiring an army to go into battle. They've got more than 1,000 lawyers and 100 offices nationwide. If you're injured by someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. Not all law firms are the same. Hire the wrong one, and you might be beat before you even start.
Because
If
they
you're ever
have,
injured, you
in
can
order
check
to
out
get past the
Morgan & Morgan.
copyright, they have to
Fee is
work
free
the
unless
voice.
they win. For more information, you can
You
go
can
to
get a rug made by me.
forthepeople.com/Patrick.
What did I do on Mother's Day? I got to spend the entire day hanging out with my kid.
California was quickly
It was
becoming
awesome.
the leading state
I did
encouraging
live stream a
lockdowns
little
during
bit,
the
so
COVID-19
you can see the
pandemic.
live stream of us
Schools
hanging
went
out
digital,
for a little
parks were
bit.
closed, and hundreds of thousands of
Strangest,
dollars in aid
inexplicable
were given to
occurrence
the
that has
homeless
happened
in
to you.
dense cities. But on the other end, there were a
Well, I
number of
prayed to
states
God
like Texas that were run by those
asked
who
God.
believed in herd immunity, which is
I
essentially
asked
the
God
idea that the
to
overwhelming
if land was in my highest, or a bus, if bus was in my highest good, for him to help me get a bus, or the university to help me get a bus. And 3 days later, I got a bus. Completely weird, out of the blue shit. And then after I got the bus, it happened so quickly and so unexpectedly. I didn't really I wasn't really prepared, to be quite honest. And so after a few weeks of living in the bus, I was like, oh shit. So I went and prayed again, and I went back to the drawing board, and I said, God, you really caught me with my pants down on that one. But if land is in my highest good, please just, I'm coiled like a spring. I will, like a boing, at whatever you show me I'm supposed to do. And then 3 days later, I met someone and they gave me $100,000 to buy land. Yes, I am on IG. So the land that I own it because my now best friend, he's passed away since, but he gave me $100,000 to buy my land because he wanted to support my idea, which was I wanted to help single moms, provide property for single moms so that they have a sense of security. Unfortunately,
my best friend, the very first woman I brought with me, screwed me over really badly, and she's taken over the property. So she wasn't even friends with him, and now she lives there with her family. So there's that. That's the most inexplicable. I mean, yeah, like how do you explain that? Obviously that means God is real in my book. Because I'm not rich. Like how else would I don't have any, I had no clue when I made that prayer how I was supposed to get land. And like the funny thing is, it's just not really up to you to worry about the how. It's only up to you to worry about the what. And then it just happens. Yes. You also have to like be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And
Majority of the population would become immune to the virus after it ran its course, or after enough people were vaccinated.
There's an effort on
and they
your
were more
part too.
hesitant to shut down businesses to stop the spread. Rogan had justified leaving California for a number of reasons, but it seemed like the pandemic was roughly his 13th reason why.
And what's the story? You moving?
I'm out of here. Yeah.
When do you leave?
Soon. Yeah.
Texas or?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Texas. I just want to go somewhere in the center of the country, somewhere it's easier to travel to both places, and somewhere where you have a little bit more freedom. Also, I think that where we live right here in Los Angeles is overcrowded. When you look at the number of people that are catching COVID because of this overpopulation issue, when you look at the traffic, when you look at the economic despair, when you look at the homelessness problem that's accelerated radically, I think there's too many people here. I think it's not tenable. I don't think it's manageable.
Unfortunately for Joe, mainstream media outlets were quick to interpret his move as him adopting a right-wing identity. Not only was he going to save millions of dollars in taxes, but his skepticism of the effectiveness of vaccines, along with the general distrust of COVID data, made it seem like he was leaving liberal Hollywood for the heart of red state America. But at this point, most of his fan base still saw him as an open-minded and reasonable guy, and they believed that the media was forcing a political identity onto him that simply wasn't there. Regardless, Rogan moved, built a new horrifically ugly podcast set, and consistently tried to convince his buddies to move to Austin.
I gotta save LA first, and then I want to go work with Bill and Melinda Gates for a while, and then I will come to Austin.
You can't save LA.
I know. We'll see.
But an issue that Joe seemed to underestimate was how being in LA allowed him to vastly outcompete other podcasts. The intellectuals and entertainers he had on his show either already lived in SoCal or frequently traveled there for business. And while Austin is still a major city, it simply isn't the same kind of cultural hub that attracts the wide variety of guests that made JRE feel so unpredictable and valuable. Another glaring issue was that Austin simply did not have an iconic comedy scene like LA. Many people forget, or choose to ignore, that Joe's first career path in entertainment was stand-up comedy, making him almost a 40-year veteran in the industry. No matter how rich and famous he got, he still spent many of his weeknights at comedy clubs in LA practicing his craft, which is why he immediately got to work building his own comedy club on 6th Street called the Comedy Mothership. By 2023, the construction was finally finished, and he felt that his background as a comedian would make the Mothership a total success.
This is the spot. It's just different than any other place we've ever been to. But it's also the only place that I've ever worked at where a comic ran it, like a comic built it. It's also people that recognize there's a new scene here. So there's like this energy to that, and they want to come experience it.
At the same time, stand-up comedy was becoming more publicly scrutinized than ever. Comedians were constantly being criticized or canceled for jokes about race, gender, or other marginalized groups. Joe often touted stand-up,
What is going on in there?
Austin, as
Who
the
is that?
place with true free speech.
What are you doing? Who's got what in their mouth?
The woke meets the wall with stand-up comedy.
What is going on?
You can't have.
What is going on in here?
It's impossible.
What is going on?
Rogan's influence in the
Where are
comedy
you?
scene made him a trusted leader for many
Get
comics.
outta here.
His podcast
I
had
wanna
become a
see
more
what everybody's
powerful
got.
promotional platform than
Who's
Saturday
fighting?
Night Live, where comedians would double the size of their fan
We're not
bases
gonna be
after
playing
they
that
became a
shit.
part of his sphere
No
of friends,
fighting.
which has now been dubbed the Rogan Sphere. And his move to Texas also inspired his buddies Tom Segura, Tony Hinchcliffe, Shane Gillis, and many other aspiring comics to move to the city. Tim Dillon was one of the only friends of Rogan who just couldn't help but point out the irony of choosing a place like Austin, Texas as a replacement for LA.
City of Austin, Texas, let's be very honest, is dangerous. The homeless there are more aggressive than I've ever seen them in New York.
Yeah.
There's pockets of it that really do look San Fran like.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Like as a metropolis, it's bad.
It's pretty small.
It's small. It's brown. There's no grass. It's not green. It turns brown. For 4 months out of the year, it's over 100 degrees. The lake is vomit colored, and there are brain-eating amoebas that can swim up your nose and kill you within 48 hours. It's rare, but it happens.
Other comedians generally felt like Austin was an unpleasant place to live or visit.
I have no power for like 3
Excuse
days.
me.
Yeah. Texas.
Hello.
Say I went to Austin. I gotta tell you that Austin. That city is a boiling pot of evil goo.
On top of that, critics felt like Austin became a sort of echo chamber for right-wing
Excuse me,
comedians who saw
madams.
ownership as a safe haven from being canceled for their hacky comedy.
I think that it's so effectively tribalized at this point. It really comes down to material. I mean, at what point, it's like whatever they represented in terms of policy, it's not a stretch. It's like they won. Trans people are frightened. They have no ability to get health care anymore, and they're afraid of being alive and have no freedom left. So that's done. When do you stop with the jokes? When and like immigrants, okay, well they're being ripped away from their homes, and and they're all terrified, and okay, so that's done. When do you stop with the joke? Right. I mean, it's one thing to pick on the vulnerable and the marginalized, but I mean, they're down. Yeah. I mean, like, why do you got to keep hitting them unless you're a hack? Now, there's a question.
More and more respected comedians have been echoing the same criticism that the Austin comedy scene is relying too heavily on being anti-woke rather than producing funny material.
There's something about the place that I'm just not.
The place you mean Austin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mothership Austin. That's all one.
You just mean so you're talking about just this whole concept of Austin comedy.
Yeah, Austin comedy.
I didn't like the vibe at the mothership. I got in
Didn't
trouble
suit
for
you?
being in the green room, apparently.
Oh, you did?
A security guard took me into the green room,
Took you right out.
and I was like, hello. And then apparently after I wasn't invited in, so apparently Joe was mad at me. It's the other comedians.
Mm-hmm. You don't like it?
It's very F word.
Some comedians even feel the need to be sarcastic when they criticize him. Perhaps they fear being blacklisted by the new comedy gatekeeper.
Like the comedy mothership is so tight knit,
Right.
and I also heard it's not a fun hang if you're an Austin comic.
What, the mothership?
If you're not like in with Rogan and his crew, if you're coming up, it's not like the Cellar. The Cellar, you could sit at the bar and feel awkward. I've heard the mothership, you have to get past Navy SEALs to get into the
I
green.
love Rogan. I love the club. I think it's perfect, and I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea, and every time I feel joy in my heart. Only club that when they go, do you want to? I go yes before they even say, and then I feel joy.
Yeah, and he swung me. I'm all in on Trump.
And considering Rogan's power and influence in the world of stand-up, you'd think he was this legendary act. Which brings me to the next key mistake he made, releasing a comedy special in 2024, where he even failed to convince his own fan base that he was actually a funny comedian. When people think about Joe Rogan's comedy career, they usually don't remember the jokes, but they might remember the moment he went on stage and called out Carlos Mencia for stealing them.
Saw you perform and they like you, and you know what? That's great. Honest, bro.
And even though most people don't recall ever laughing at his stand-up, he has included himself into the extremely small group of the elite 250 comedians alive today.
And it's also small because there's so few of us. And worldwide, there's maybe 500 of us.
on the planet. You know, you got to be real generous and say 500 because it's really probably about 250.
This wouldn't be as ridiculous if Rogan didn't spend hours ad nauseum explaining the craft and the art behind stand-up comedy. For real comedy fans, one of his most ridiculous moments was when he was explaining the writing process to top comics like Louis C.K.
What I do is I get index cards and I'll actually write the bullet points for each bit and I lay them out on the coffee table in the green room. I know.
Yeah, you gotta load it in.
Yeah.
You gotta be living it.
You gotta be like, it's gotta be refreshed. The thing that drives me more nutty than anything is like when I forget a tag.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Then I leave and I'm like, I forgot that part
Yeah.
about the guy.
Yeah. This is like a line cook talking to a 5-star Michelin chef about how they make food. They both make food, but the quality is very different. But after hearing Joe explain the craft for the 1000th time, even his own fans are tired of hearing him try to convince them how important and interesting comedians are.
It's like if you want to be a doctor, you go to college, you get a degree, you go to medical school, you do your residency, there's a pathway. What the is the pathway for being a successful comedian? Your pathway is different than mine. Mine's different than Duncan's or Ari's. We all have different pathways.
A few moments later.
All you have to do is you do open mic nights, you get funny, you build up an act, and then people come to see you. You build up a career, and the next thing you know, you become a successful comedian. That's what happened to you. That's what happened to me.
It seems like over the past few years, Rogan started having a harder time differentiating between the fame he got on the podcast versus his stand-up. But we would see just how much he overestimated his comedic skills in 2024 when he announced his newest special, Burn the Boats. And while he hyped it up as an hour he had been working on for the past 6 years, there's one clip that perfectly summarizes this special. Joe glazing Elon Musk, screaming to make empty material feel bigger than it really was, and not even having a punchline.
He was explaining to me how this rocket ship his company designed is going to move civilization to Mars. He's telling me all the calculations. Halfway through him explaining this, I stopped paying attention. All I'm imagining 4 dudes strapped into a rocket on their way to Mars. Just shh. One guy pulls out a gun. Boom! Shoots that guy. Bang! Shoots that guy. Leaves one guy alive. Going, ah!
Oh, and the deafening silence from the crowd after he absolutely bombs his jokes.
Trans women are women. How about most? You gotta leave room for crazy.
And the begging Joe to put the mic down forever. YouTuber The Elephant Graveyard's critique of Rogan's special looms over his career like a dark cloud, leading to the awakening of some of Joe's biggest fans and friends. You won't find any of his comedy buddies talking about how funny Joe's special was. But after this special released, the 2024 presidential election was about to change Rogan's identity forever. The centrist and open-minded guy who built his brand on curiosity and authenticity was starting to look less like a neutral truth seeker and more like someone trapped in his own ideological bubble, leading to his 4th key mistake of letting the Joe Rogan experience get way too politically focused. Rogan has long identified himself as a left-leaning centrist.
Yeah, I think socially I lean more left, like socially, like in terms of like welfare and things along those lines. And, you know, obviously this protected status is driving me crazy. This thing that Trump's doing with children that were born in this country or born in other countries and then brought over here as children, and then they're talking about deporting them. The hard right version of that is despicable. These people that I see online, why didn't they apply for citizenship? Oh, who knows? Maybe because they're 13. Yeah. You know, like, were you out there applying for citizenship if you were 13?
He even once said he would never have a politician on his show because he understood they'd never be as authentic as his buddies.
I've had requests from all of them.
Really?
Oh yeah, Biden, Warren.
How do you resist them?
Because I have my friends. I'd rather talk to my friends.
Yeah, I know. And his political identity made sense considering he would talk about the medicinal value of psychedelics, question government conspiracies, support gay marriage, and be prideful of the Second Amendment all within one episode. He genuinely felt reasonable and relatable to millions of people. But after re-signing with Spotify, this time for $250 million, he started to look and sound more like a wealthy elite trying to cosplay as the common man. That illusion became more obvious after he sat face to face with Donald Trump for a multi-hour long conversation during the presidential campaign trail of 2024. Joe wasn't really challenging Trump on his policies, but rather giving him an open platform to pitch himself to Joe's millions of listeners. Then again, Joe said that he wanted to have Kamala Harris on as well and give her the same exact platform he gave Trump, but he claims they wanted to compromise the integrity of his show.
But she had an opportunity to come here when she was in Texas, and I literally gave them an open invitation. I said, anytime. I said, if she's done at 10 o'clock, we'll come back here at 10 o'clock. But it was very difficult to tie it down, and they wanted to travel. And see, the thing is, like, you can't, if I go somewhere, then there's going to be other people in the room, and they want to control a lot of things, I'm sure. My whole goal with her and with him is just talk, have a conversation like a human being.
With the world feeling more divided than ever, and Rogan seeing record high viewership due to having Trump and Elon Musk on the show, he believed it was time to step out of his centrist identity and use his influence to take a firm stance.
Doesn't win. This is the last election.
I think you're right. And a lot of people are waking up and realize that have been lifelong Democrats. Guys like Bill Ackman, guys like Chamath.
Yeah, exactly.
Tulsi Gabbard switched over to the Republicans. Like, there's a lot of people who their whole life they've been left wing. They realize, like, I can't do this anymore.
You and I used to be Democrats.
Yeah.
Just a few hours before the election day, Rogan tweeted his endorsement for Trump, citing that Elon Musk was a major influence behind this decision. Joe quickly became the outspoken comic for political justice, using his Instagram partly as a news platform to celebrate achievements of the sitting president. And with a growing network of wealthy and powerful people wanting to jump on his platform, his podcast started to resemble the end of a sitcom, where they ran out of ideas and packed it with celebrity cameos and interviews that didn't fit the older classic JRE everyone liked. He started hosting people like Mark Zuckerberg, venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, and Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel. And while everyone understands that JRE has always hosted people of all backgrounds to come on and talk about anything, it was the way Joe conducted these interviews that left fans disappointed, leading to his fifth key decision of cozying up with billionaires. While the old Joe Rogan built his brand on questioning authority and challenging powerful people, the new version often seemed far more interested in protecting them because he thinks his billionaire friends are the good ones.
I'm friends now. This is a bizarre thing to say with multiple billionaires.
Yeah.
I know multiple guys that are billionaires, and they're very nice people.
But you're also friends with the cool billionaires.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you managed to find the cool ones.
Well, you
One of the most devastating episodes to his reputation was when he sat down with Peter Thiel. Peter is a Silicon Valley billionaire who co-founded PayPal and Palantir Technologies. Palantir is a software company that was funded by the CIA's venture capital firm In-Q-Tel. Their software can sift through billions of emails, passport records, surveillance footage, satellite images, cell phone logs, bank transfers around the world with the intent to help the US government prevent future terrorist attacks or soldiers from getting obliterated by IEDs on the battlefield. After they proved how effective their technology was in war zones, they started receiving billions of dollars in defense contracts working with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and the Israeli military.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
From there, Palantir created a new product to service corporate America. The same surveillance logic used for war and counterintelligence was repackaged for hospitals, banks, airlines, and major retailers, helping companies track supply chains, predict shortages, monitor employee behavior, flag fraud, and make decisions using massive amounts of real-time data. During the pandemic, Palantir software was used by governments and health agencies to help manage the outbreak response. We used to make decisions with critical thinking and intuition. Now, Palantir software tells us what decisions to make. And all of that is very important to consider when the company's founder, Peter Thiel, has been very outspoken about this theory that the Antichrist is going to create a new world order, take over the earth, and enslave all humans.
My speculative thesis is that if the Antichrist were to come to power, it would be by talking about Armageddon all the time. And Peter Thiel, the Antichrist would talk about Armageddon all the time. He'd scare people and then offer to save them. Yes, it's the 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety.
What's interesting is that Peter Thiel's fear of the Antichrist sounds more like a projection of what he's doing, because his company sells global surveillance technology to governments that want to monitor its people for the sake of peace and safety. He also had a strange non-answer when asked if he would prefer that the human race survive.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're
Yeah,
hesitating.
well,
Yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long
there's so many.
hesitation.
This was Rogan's reaction to that response, by the way.
You ever see that interview where Peter Thiel, they ask him, should the human race survive? And he has like this long pause. It's like, it's a really funny pause. Because if you know Peter, he's a brilliant man, and Peter carefully considers everything before he answers it.
And just to add a cherry on top, Thiel was referred to by Jeffrey Epstein in the files as a great friend, and Epstein personally invested in one of his businesses. Joe Rogan had a wide open opportunity to ask important questions about Palantir's technology, global surveillance, military contracts, and the ethics of building software that helps governments target, control, and kill people, but no. Joe Rogan did not ask a single question about Palantir or the Antichrist. Instead, Peter controlled the entire conversation and acted like he wasn't a player in the corrupt world run by big tech.
I don't know. You know, they're all the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theories, which I'm probably too fascinated by because there was some crazy stuff going on that they were able to cover up. And still are. Doesn't it, the fact that we're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, tell us how hard it is to come up with anything else? Do you have a theory on what was Bill Gates' complicity with Epstein? I think he likes. I think he's a man. I think he likes power. He likes monopoly. I mean, he's incredibly effective with Microsoft. Do you think that he needed Epstein? I think it's very difficult for a very famous, very high-profile person to around. I think it's very difficult.
I find it funny that Joe is talking about this billionaire elite, Epstein, and the CIA without ever mentioning that Thiel himself is involved in all of those areas and does not actually ask any direct question about his personal involvement and experience in those circles and conspiracies. Asking Peter Thiel about conspiracies is like asking the Illuminati if they're real. Joe had on Kurt Metzger shortly after, who tried to convince Joe that Peter Thiel was lying to his face, and Joe immediately rushed to defend his billionaire buddy.
Peter Thiel, I watch you talk to Peter Thiel. I've never seen someone lie so artlessly and autistically in my life.
What did he lie about?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna put this out about Epstein Island. Maybe it's just some guys were cheating on their wives. Yeah, maybe that's all it was, Peter.
See, the thing is, he's a gay guy, and he's not interested in going to that island, so he's probably on the outs. And allegedly, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's supposedly.
Yeah, that's not the only game in town.
Oh, I'm sure there's gay blackmail, but you can't when a guy's single and gay, like, what are you going to get on him?
It was only months later, on an episode with Tim Dillon, that Rogan finally came up with some interesting thoughts about Peter Thiel that he should have shared when he was sitting in front of him for 3 hours.
That's what bothers people about this Palantir thing.
The Palantir thing is very odd.
A lot of people feel that this is the precursor to a social credit score, a digital kind of police state, and that it's being done under the guise of security, that you will be safer. You know, Peter Thiel's giving a 4-part lecture on the Antichrist.
Yeah, that seems odd.
Well, here's what's really wild to me. It's not just one lecture on the Antichrist would be insane. This guy's doing a series.
If you told me there was a movie and there was a guy who played the Antichrist, zoom in on that image of him.
Yeah.
I would say, oh, is that him? Is that the Antichrist?
Tune in next week for my episode with Peter Thiel, where we don't mention any of this. Another obvious example of Joe letting his platform getting taken over by suspicious powerful people was when he hosted Mike Baker, a supposed ex-CIA agent who just happened to run a company that still closely collaborates with the agency to this day. Anytime Rogan got close to uncovering anything, Baker would skate around the issue and say absolutely nothing.
Who do you think was involved in that? Do you think it was the Mossad, some rogue intelligence agency in America? Was it a coordinated effort?
I know there's a lot of talk about, did he have some sort of intel connection, right?
Right.
That from my perspective, it's complete speculation. But I will say, you see a guy like this who's super connected and is, all the way back to 2008 was like his first trial, right? So he's had a long history of these problems. If I'm Chinese intel, if I can get somebody, right? Inside that operation, whether it's Ghislaine Maxwell, whether it's Epstein himself, whether it's somebody who's just on the outskirts of it, maybe I'll start picking up some pretty interesting leverageable information.
Imagine thinking this is an underground show that tells you about conspiracies, then half of the guests are just federal agents. Joe Rogan used to be the bro who would question aliens, the moon landing, flat earthers, Bigfoot, JFK assassination, the pharmaceutical industry, big tech, and even the Epstein files connected to powerful elites. But now he is either so out of touch or entirely compromised that he'll spend hours chit-chatting with the enemy without asking any important or relevant questions, or shutting down anyone going against the official narrative. I mean, just look at how angry he gets at Michael Schellenberger for being skeptical about how Jeffrey Epstein died.
His cellmate is a contract killer. Why would he be in a cell with a cop who's a contract killer?
I mean, aren't there a lot of
the
bad
night
guys
Jeffrey
in-
Epstein claimed his cellmate tried to kill him. New documents revealed Jeffrey Epstein claimed his cellmate tried to kill him in an incident before his death.
Yeah, but we don't
Okay, but
know if that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why are you dismissing it?
I'm not dismissing it, Joe. Look,
But you
maybe
are.
more
This-
evidence will come out. I'm just saying, like, if you look at the evidence we
you're looking
have.
to dismiss it.
No, I'm saying I was confident it was a homicide, and now
Were
I'm not.
Were you aware of this?
Yeah, of course, all that stuff.
You were aware that he tried to kill him.
Of course.
You were aware that he said
aware
this?
that he said that.
Well, how come you never brought it up before? You seemed shocked when I brought it up.
Well, because my understanding is it was a attempt 18 days before.
Okay, but if he said this guy tried to kill him, why didn't you take that into consideration?
Joe seems pretty hell-bent on convincing his audience that questioning the official narrative around Jeffrey Epstein is loony conspiracy behavior.
But in the public eye, the narrative is underage girls. And this is the thing that makes it so disgusting. When people talk about it, everyone says kids on the island. This is the big conspiracy about it. And this is the reason why people are so outraged about it.
Joe Rogan has literally become the mainstream media he swore he hated so much. His inability to push back makes him look like a gullible puppet. Then again, his obsession and reliance on AI was only making that perception worse, which is the final nail in the coffin that could kill the Joe Rogan experience for good. It's one thing to use AI as an additional tool, but Joe Rogan's lack of skepticism towards AI is truly scary. The first warning sign was when Joe referenced an obviously fake AI video of Tim Walz dancing and wearing an F Trump shirt, but he refuses to fully accept that he was tricked by AI because it seems like something Tim Walz would do.
And then that person goes wacky like Tim Walz.
That's right.
Did you see where he had a Trump shirt on?
Yeah.
And he's dancing and going down an elevator? Have you seen this video?
I haven't yet. Please play it.
You go full screen.
Is that really this
Yes.
him?
It's real. Yes, it is. No, it's real. I love it. It's real. Come on, man.
Jamie's compromised.
Look at him dancing.
I mean, the
That is so real, Jamie.
By the way, if this was real, he might have won.
It's probably a real person. It might not be Tim Walz. The Trump is AI generated.
No, he slaps his ass.
That is hilarious.
It's definitely him. This is all 100% real, Jamie. You're a plant. Does it say that it's AI? Everybody says
The
it.
video I played on top says it's AI generated.
I fell for it too. And you know why I fell for it?
Yeah.
Because I believe that he's capable of doing something.
But that's his
not-
essence.
He's so weird.
Joe's ego, along with his allegiance to big tech, has completely convinced him that AI could never be wrong.
Did you see what they just did to the guys that won the Super Bowl? You see the jock tax?
Yeah.
Jamie, you see the jock tax?
Yeah, it's not a new thing, though.
I understand. It's specific to California.
Yeah,
And this jock tax in California, some of the players lost money playing in the Super Bowl. So they had to pay. Oh no, it is true.
I don't think so.
No, it is true. I went it through AI last night.
I don't.
No, it was in. They pulled it up on Grok, and people analyzed it, and it's based. No, Jamie. It's Jamie.
Joe's show producer, Jamie, has been a part of JRE for nearly 15 years. That entire time, he was the guy behind the computer pulling up articles, old interviews, scientific studies, and source material whenever Joe needed a fact check. When conversations went off the rails into wild theories, Jamie would root the conversation in reality. But Jamie's research has now been replaced with the blind reliance on the sponsor of the show, Perplexity AI.
Jamie, pull up
Wait, pull up that picture of like, see if you could pull up one and see how many. Hey God, could you put that into our love and sponsor Perplexity?
But it doesn't stop at just sourcing information. Rogan is infatuated with an AI cover of Many Men by 50 Cent.
You haven't heard the Many Men version, the AI version of Many Men?
No.
Okay. Have you heard what they're doing with AI music? Speaking of jazz,
Yes.
Have you ever heard any of the AI covers of 50 Cent songs in soul?
No.
I'm gonna blow your mind.
Okay.
This is my favorite thing to do to people.
There have been multiple episodes where Rogan holds his guest hostage and makes them listen to an entire AI song.
Been getting into AI music at all?
A little.
Have you heard What Up Gangsta?
No, no.
Oh yeah, gotta hear this.
This is fantastic.
I can't wait to see Joe's reaction when people start becoming fond of AI comedians. Then all of a sudden, he's going to go on tangents about how AI could never replace the extremely small, elite 250 comedians who truly understand the art and the craft. And even if you think it couldn't get worse, Joe's new favorite thing to do is compare AI to being the second coming of Jesus Christ.
The real question is, who's Jesus? That's the real one. And one of the weirder ones that people think this is a stupid take, but I don't care. Jesus was born out of a virgin mother. What's more virgin than a computer? So if you're going to get the most brilliant, loving, powerful person that gives us advice and can show us how to live, to be in
Tell me
sync
you were
with God.
stoned with Elon Musk
Who
without
better than
telling me you
artificial
were stoned
intelligence to
with
do that?
Elon Musk.
If Jesus does return, even if Jesus was a physical person in the past, you don't think that he could return as artificial intelligence?
Oh my God.
Artificial intelligence could absolutely return as Jesus. Not just return as Jesus, but return as Jesus with all the powers of Jesus. Like all the magic tricks, all the ability to bring people back from the dead, walk on water, levitation.
But by far, the true measure of showing just how far from grace Rogan has fallen is whenever he has conversations with Theo Vaughn. Theo will throw out these little jabs or hints at Rogan, seeing if he's still down to engage in a conspiracy theory or at least question the official narrative. But more often than not, Joe shuts it down like the exact kind of person he used to criticize.
How much longer does Israel let us stay alive, do you think? That's the big question.
Why are they?
What did you say? Is that AI?
What are you saying?
I didn't say anything.
What are you saying?
Huh? Talking about Israel Adesanya.
Oh, well, he loves you. Don't worry about it.
Good call.
What are you saying, son?
And although Theo has done his fair share of platforming elites without giving the proper pushback, Theo often sounds like a guy trying to understand powerful people and question their true intentions, while Rogan sounds like someone trying to defend them.
It's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, it's all the same. It has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting politicians slurp on kids. All of our money goes to Israel and they're using it to genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like, I don't know, man.
We gotta get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your marbles.
You think I am?
Come hang out with us. Just chill.
I'm
out.
here.
Just chill out at the mothership tonight.
Dismissing Theo Vaughn for being upset with the current state of the world is incredibly ironic, considering Joe, just a few weeks ago, also said how the news is too overwhelming for him now.
I'm scared of everything. I have to stay offline. I'm reading too much of the news, and it's overwhelming me. Like sometimes at nighttime, like I can't wind down.
Yeah.
It's just like there's too much news. We're about to go to war with Iran. Everyone's eating beef jerky and pizza. Like, what are these? What the is pizza?
I know.
You know, how far does this go? How come this never got released before? Like, what is happening?
Many believe this is overwhelming to Joe because he knows deep down he helped endorse the guy who ran on no new wars, only for that to be a complete lie.
And also, he's campaigning on stopping all the wars.
Yes.
It's like his primary concern. is
Exactly. The
stopping
warmongers like Liz Cheney hate him.
Yeah.
Because they love war.
Well, they profit off of
They
it.
profit off of war.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is insane.
And now Joe is in total damage control. He's trying to go back to being seen as the centrist and not the guy who endorsed Trump and echoed right-wing talking points for the past 2 years.
That's all. You're just being manipulated. And you're being manipulated by these two teams. And you have to pick a team. You have to decide which team are you on. I hate that. It's so stupid. I'm politically homeless. I've always been I've been politically homeless for a long time. Neither one of them make any sense to me.
And of course, while talking with Theo, he most certainly doubled down on his defense of Peter Thiel.
The humans are on the way out. I know a lot of people hate it when Peter Thiel says it. Like, Peter Thiel is a terrible person. He's evil.
Do you think he is?
No. I think he's just telling you the truth. I think he's, when they said, "Do you think human beings should survive?" And he had like this long pause.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then the interviewer was like, "The answer is yes. The answer is yes. You think human beings are," which is not how you're supposed to do an interview. I would let him talk as long as he wants. If you watch my podcast I did with him, this is long dammers. But he's like, everything he does, he wants to be very careful before he answers it. If you ask me the same question, is it important that humans survive? Is it important that Australopithecus survived? It's not. Is it important that Neanderthal survived? It's not currently not important. Is it important that humans stay in this form? It's not. It's not going to be.
Joe Rogan is 100% no longer someone questioning powerful people. He treats their predictions about AI, surveillance, and the end of humanity like uncomfortable truths the public just isn't ready to accept. This is a major reason why his podcast dropped from #1 in the world to #5. Rogan built his entire reputation on distrusting institutions, warning people about elites, and encouraging individuality. Yet here he is wholeheartedly accepting the idea that human beings are basically obsolete, that AI replacing us is inevitable, and that resistance is pointless because progress has already been determined by the people building it. He is fully convinced that whatever we morph into from here is objectively better. His total disregard for the entirety of human history is alarming, even though that is how we got to where we are today. And the strangest part is how passive it feels. There is no fight in him, no concern for the loss of purpose, love, meaning, soul. Just this detached acceptance that if billionaires say the digital god is coming, that we should all just bow down and obey. For the MMA fighter who used to question everything, Rogan today is way too comfortable submitting to the future that shady billionaires have created for him. And this is large in part to his allegiance to Elon Musk, someone that many felt was the cool and trusted billionaire for a long time. But these days, that perception has shifted. But check out this video if you want to hear more about that.
Chanel is easily one of the most impactful privately owned companies in fashion today. One of the last ones to exist, in fact. That's because the family behind it knew how to navigate true hardships over the last about 120 years. So today, as we enter a new chapter of Chanel under Matthew Blasey, let's look back on exactly how Chanel became Chanel. This video is a shortened version of my second ever book. Weirdly, I think it's the first book ever written as a biography of the Chanel company directly instead of about Chanel personally, so it's well worth the read, in my opinion. So the link for that is in the description box below. I do know Amazon sucks, but considering the point of my channel is to make it so reliable fashion information is indefinitely publicly available, then that's the best solution that I have to that problem. Alternatively, I do have the book for sale on my Patreon as a digital copy, and you don't need to be a member of the Patreon to buy there. I hope you enjoy it, and please do send me photos on Instagram because I loved it last time. The Chanel business began as a milliner's in 1908 in her lover's brother's bachelor apartment at 160 Boulevard Malesherbes. It was quite an informal affair because her lover, Etienne Barsin, who was funding the venture, did not wholeheartedly believe in it, as it was quite taboo for a wealthy man's mistress to have a business at this time. For this reason, when another even wealthier man by the name of Arthur Capel offered to expand the business to his own apartment on Boulevard Malesherbes in 1909, Chanel jumped at the chance. This is often when it's stated that Chanel was founded, as it is in 1909 when the business was established as Chanel Mode, despite the fact that she was already selling hats the previous year in 1908. One thing you should know about this time, however, is that Chanel could not sew almost at all. She could embroider small things, but that was pretty much it, and she wasn't an expert even at that. It was this that led to her minimal style, and it was not naturally popular. Both of her lovers, Capel and Balsan, sent their wealthy female friends to buy hats from her, seemingly out of duty, more so than because these minimal hats were well designed, because, by all accounts, they were not. In fact, more than one author points out that these were simple hat bases bought from Galerie Lafayette with a simple ribbon attached. So, in comparison to other hats of the time, which I'll put an example on the screen, it's likely they just read as lazy as opposed to minimal, and the only customers that she had were there for duty rather than for fashion. Because of this, Chanel Mode was very, very far from profitable, even after a Chanel hat was shot for the cover of Comédie Illustrée magazine. In fact, Capel wrote several times how he only kept the business open in order to keep his mistress happy. By all accounts, her skill in fashion was never design or sewing at all, but in social climbing. And that's most obvious at this time. Because despite her hats losing him money hand over fist, Chanel had a team of workers and she even requested to expand the business. And expand they did. By 1910, Chanel hired her younger sister Antoinette to be a shop assistant, an up-and-coming milliner named Lucien Rabatte to both design and construct the hats, two more assistants who came with Rabatte from her previous employer Maison Louis, and finally, but still in 1910, she would set up shop on 21 Rue Cambon. Quickly, it became clear to Rabatte, who herself went on to be a successful milliner, that the move to Chanel was a mistake. Chanel had truly no ability in millinery whatsoever. Cheney, in her 2012 book, goes as far as to call it an ignorance of technique, and it caused major arguments within the salon. Chanel would request a hat, they would make it, but because it didn't look like how she thought she described, Chanel would become irate and abuse her staff. She'd even refuse to help any customers within the shop, leaving when they came in. Frankly, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Chanel was an awful boss to the people in her salon, and she doesn't seem to have been well respected by them in technique either, because her ignorance had caused so many internal problems. All in all, there was really only one positive about Chanel Mode at this time, and that's the fact that she saw her business as a capitalist venture first and foremost, really pushing to make it profitable by purposefully keeping the prices high while limiting the amount of endowment that went on them. It's a tactic she would literally physically write down in one of the very few notes that she ever wrote, so we do know that this was an intentional tactic. And it is unusual she would write down because she was nearly illiterate, but it did evidence that she had a natural flair for retailing, and in the end, that was her skill. This is the real reason for her success, not the idea that she was some genius designer, as we all have the perception of today. She even personally later dictated in her memoir, fashion is not an art, it is a job. If art makes use of fashion, then that is sufficient praise. It's best to follow fashion, even if it's ugly. That said, Chanel's company was still hemorrhaging Capel's finances, and by 1911, 1912-ish, she still wanted to expand. Fortunately, Capel had enough money not to worry too much about the losses, and from his notes saved in his own memoir, it seems more that he was just humoring her more than anything else. His mistress wanted a job, and he didn't mind defying social norms at the time to allow her this hobby. Their expansion came eventually in this 1912-ish time, in which she would loophole the licensing on her 21 Rue Cambon address by selling knitwear and jerseys. So the licensing on her place did not allow her to compete with the dressmakers or couturiers nearby. So she could not herself sell couture, but jersey was such a poor fabric that it was inconceivable anyone would sell it on the prestigious Rue Cambon, especially in the mass-produced manner that Chanel had commissioned. It literally just circumvented the licensing limitation. It was almost as if H&M opened up on Fifth Avenue, which I don't live in New York. I have no idea if they've already done that. Also, I know this sounds a bit harsh, but it was actually more accurate than you might believe, as nearly all of Chanel's clothes at this time were heavily inspired by other designers of the time. Mostly Paul Poiret, who she adamantly never credited, and Madeleine Vianney, who she did. In fact, the earliest recorded Chanel dress is this one from 1913, and is apparently a near dupe of a Vianney dress, which is a little ironic because if you've watched my Vianney video, you know how extremely adamant Vianney was against copying. Chanel, however, would later encourage copyists greatly, but we will get to that. For now, just know that she had hopes to expand into couture, but was currently selling sportswear, and frankly, it did not suit her Rue Cambon location. So she moved. She opened up a second location in 1913 in Deauville on the coast of France, hiring 2 more local women as seamstresses and naming the first store Gabrielle Chanel. Women were on the trend of engaging in more sporting activities, mostly conducted in seaside towns, and they were underrepresented in local stores. By which I mean she was extremely far from the first designer to produce sporting clothes, several years late, in fact, but she was an early adopter of the trend in Deauville specifically, where she knew wealthy people holidayed in the summer. Here, taking inspiration from menswear, Chanel ordered her seamstresses to create open collar blouses, belted jackets, long skirts, fisherman shirts, turtlenecks, oversized jumpers, and polo sweaters with slight tweaks to make them appropriate for women. These designs, too, are widely considered to be dupes, which we know thanks to both of Carmel Snow's autobiographies. Yes, I did an incredible amount of reading for this project, thank you for noticing, because Carmel Snow notes explicitly that Chanel's designs were, quote, simplifications of Cherie, who was the first female designer to head a major couture house. She goes into more detail about this too, by which I mean Carmel Snow goes into more detail about this too, explaining how Chanel was producing them on a mass scale, which to be fair is nothing like we would consider mass market today, but it does explain that that was the selling point. These were easy to pick up off the shelf and buy. Also, a huge selling factor was Chanel herself as a person, who, though she wasn't accepted by high society at this time, just because of the way social hierarchy was set up, did actually have a gravitas to her. Chanel had never been afraid of selling to courtesans, which many of the designers at the time were, and as a mistress herself, it became almost a sexual intrigue that drew women into her shop. She used this too. Chanel was well aware that she was selling herself as much as she was selling her clothes, and she purposefully perpetuated this by trying to be seen with her hands in her pockets, which at the time was a sign of lesbianism. This, mixed with her openly bisexual affairs with women, made her quite exciting to know and made people want to go into the shop. Remember that Diesel advert that was like, sex sells, unfortunately we sell jeans? That's basically what she was doing. With that said, business was still a slow drip over time as the locals and people who were holidaying there got to know Chanel and got to be intrigued by her. Therefore, business didn't really pick up until the outbreak of World War I in 1914, which saw about a third of Paris migrate to Deauville, where they both needed to be clothed and were further intrigued by Chanel. Because of that, because of the war breaking out and Chanel happening to be there, they finally turned a profit. 200,000 gold francs, the equivalent of 800,000 pounds, 900,000 euros, or about $1 million. Finally, it was actually worthwhile for Capel to finance the expansion of Chanel. They decided on yet another prime location, this time in a massive building called La Villa Larolde on Rue Gardère in Biarritz, and it was to be her first couture studio. Opening 1915, Chanel's couture studio was not really what you would think of as couture today. It still had a lot of mass-produced elements to it, in part because it was during World War I, and in part because there were few petits mains to hire because they were in World War I. But it was successful, and it led to her first official collection, which was called La Pauvreté de Luxe, which debuted in 1916, a frankly genius introduction to her brand, which was known for using very cheap fabrics like jersey and putting them with luxury elements like silk linings. It well branded her business, and it allowed her to continue to use the high margin strategy that she'd coined all the way back in 1908/1909 with her millinery work. For this reason, the couture business was flooded with orders from the first day it opened. Antoinette, who'd come over to help, took orders from all over the world, and the 300-odd seamstresses were working as fast as they could. They even had to send their première, Marie-Louise Delay, to Spain to set up an atelier to meet the needs of their Spanish clients. Interestingly, this is also the first time in her entire company's history that it's really explicit that Chanel was doing the design work. Despite Marie-Louise Delay saying Chanel, quote, never set foot in the workrooms and only working until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, after which she, quote, retired to her drawing room where she entertained a great deal, she is finally described as calling them on the phone to describe her designs. She also chose colors, laces, and ornaments for the petit main to actually sew together. Though Marie-Louise did later admit that they had to heavily interpret what Chanel dictated because of her lack of technique, meant that without interpretation it was impossible to make a wearable garment. With that said, though Chanel's debut was a very obvious success, by that November, the same year, her clients were already a bit tired of her design ethos. Quote, in November 1916, Vogue gave a hint of impatience that Gabrielle's apparently limitless capacity to design using the previously downmarket jersey was clearly not shared by readers, when it informed that it had been rumored lately that women were growing tired of jersey. But Chanel is a master of her art, and her jersey frocks are as complete and as daintily finished as frocks of more thoroughly patrician stuffs. You can probably tell Vogue already had a personal relationship with Chanel by this point, as they were defending her so greatly in this. But that really was only part of the problem. It was also somewhat considered unpatriotic to start a business during the wartime, as most of her contemporaries had shut shop to help out with war efforts. The fact that her business grew due to the lack of competition was well criticized at the time, and she was not the only female couturier. But personally, I also think Chanel's refusal to personalize her original designs, which was the norm in couture at the time, fed into it. Her prospective customers were used to customizable couture and the choice of many houses. But now Chanel was one of the only open design houses, and she had begun to force her customers to literally wear the same thing as one another, stubbornly refusing any changes on her designs. It would have affected consumer perspective. The saving grace to this, however, was her social standing. Quote, she had recognized that in order to acquire a greater reputation than her fellow designers, she would be wise to cultivate the impression that she didn't need to work hard, that by implication, she was the equal of her clients. This, in fact, would be a tactic she used for the entire rest of her career. Chanel's growth in that case is a mixed bag throughout the 1910s and the 1920s. A lot of what we think of Chanel representing at this time today, the reasons why we think her business grew, is more like a modern day reframing. For example, many people believe that Chanel rid women of the corset. She did not. She sold corsets from 1915 onwards, and in fact was quite widely criticized at that time for the perpetuation that only skinny women could be fashionable, which had never been the case in fashion before. Quote, in 1923, Vogue described the hours one poor woman spent at the gym and the masseuse and the pills and rubber girdles used to attain an ideal shape. Another article would say how seductive is the straight line of our winter dresses, how revealing of the svelteness of the female silhouette, but then admitted that this was pretty much impossible to acquire without some kind of corset. There was no other way of achieving that desired silhouette. In that sense, Chanel's ethos was more about the appearance of liberation than actually liberating women. That said, despite the pushback, Chanel's designs were still selling fairly well. In September 1919, they finally expanded into their famed Paris location at 31 Rue Cambon. But then tragedy struck. Her financier, who was now in a relationship with a new lady who was his fiancé, Arthur Capel, died in a quite gruesome car accident, leaving her a large sum of money in his will. By 1920, they opened a Russian subsidiary thanks to her new friend and kind of lover, Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, who introduced her to Ernest Beau, the famed perfumer to the ex-Tsar of Russia. This is the man who would develop Chanel No. 5, which debuted in 1921. Of course, I go over it in the book in so much more detail because it's really fascinating, but I do also have a kind of old Chanel cosmetics video on underskin. So for brevity, I'll send you that way if you want to know more about the Chanel No. 5 fragrance and how impactful it was to the business. Because in the meantime, 1921 to 1922, Chanel's designs were gaining traction extremely quickly. Chanel was repetitive, but for the first time, critics loved it.
They were amazed at Chanel's ability to be consistent without being monotonous in her minimalist designs, which had notably now become more popular than any of her competitors. Chanel did not sew, but she had honed an exceptional talent for world building and community building in which society ladies would want to wear Chanel at all times of day and night in order to feel included in this cultural phenomenon. This, in fact, is what led to the popularity of Chanel's little black dress, which I do feel like we probably should talk about, despite the fact that it was kind of an accident. You see, it's a bit hard to say when the first little black dress was designed because we don't really know when it began. She could have commissioned the first one even before she had a business. In fact, it's not without the realm of possibility. Obviously, though, she was not the first to make a black dress, nor was she the first to make a little dress, nor was she the first to make a little black dress or make a night-to-day dress. So the idea of the little black dress is hard to pin down who first designed one, you know? What we do know is that in 1924 to 1926, she openly encouraged other designers and department stores, etc., to steal the design that she had made, all of them. And this is what led to it getting the nickname of the Ford dress, because it was so common by 1924, 1926, that it contrasted people like V&A who really fought against the copyists. Effectively, the dress became famous because she allowed other people to copy her work. Weirdly, this is how this next era of Chanel would continue. Chanel never invented any one specific piece of clothing or accessory. Instead, she was better known for popularizing already existing styles because she herself had that je ne sais quoi that literally no one else had at that time. It's this that led to Chanel number 5 a few years ago, her popularizing the bob haircut in France, and also led her to start a costume jewelry line in 1926, which popularized the idea of wearing fake jewelry proudly. She even went as far to make impossibly large pearls to capitalize on this democratized ethos. Quote, "It's disgusting to walk around with millions around the neck because one happens to be rich. I only like fake jewelry because it's provocative." Frankly, this was her genius. It's a rather modern concept, even today, to take designs that were current and just popularize them purely from how gravitational and influential she was in the haute monde. There's many designers that do this now, shan't name names, but undoubtedly her customers were buying from Chanel for the name of Chanel rather than the actual design credibility. Of course, this branding concept as well was not originated by her, but it was still a very novel concept at the time that she profited from, especially starting in 1929 when the Great Depression hit. Many of her new friends she was introduced to through Capel lost their fortunes overnight. While Chanel was flush with new money,
Totally forgot about
the
you.
women that had once stood
Oh,
down
thank
her
you guys.
now needed to work. And Chanel saw it as an opportunity. Chanel was one of the very few places that these high society ladies could work without shame, thanks to her own public stature, which had grown in recent years. Frankly, her decision to appear not to work.
One of you
for
guys
so
need
many
to
years
commission
had now
a
led her to
portrait from me. I
becoming
want to
more
try and do a
equal to
portrait.
these old money individuals, which then led her
I'll
to
give a
being one
heavy
of the few
discount
places
because
for
I need
them
to
to work.
practice.
In return, Chanel gained an army of society ambassadors, further pushing her brand into the world of the haute monde. It was an invaluable promotion for Chanel, getting them accepted by royal and political connections alike. Because now that they were not flush with money because of the Great Depression, it too helped that with a Chanel ensemble, one could pretty much guarantee longevity in style, as she was known to be so consistent. And because of that consistency, it projected an ability to wear the world's most popular designer without the need to show off with excessive decoration. Effectively, she had the perfect blend for a major economic downturn. She had turned Chanel from being the H&M of Paris to being a brand for high-class people, endorsed by high-class people. It was an incredible turnaround, but it wasn't quite the easy transition she had made it out to seem.
You see, despite another of her lovers, the Duke of Westminster, paying to expand Chanel in London into a store on Davy Street in Mayfair in 1928, and despite how famous Chanel had become in this time, it's widely believed that again by 1930, Chanel apparel was no longer doing as well as it had been. She even had to take external projects exclusively for the money, including all of her Hollywood work, none of which was successful, and all of which she hated to do. But in fairness, in this time, the slip in profits wasn't solely able to be blamed on Chanel herself. Yes, her unchanging style was falling out of fashion thanks to the rise of Schiaparelli.
My
I have
girl
two
is
videos
looking
on,
for the
but
babies.
it's also easily partially attributed to the sales slump during the Great Depression, which followed World War One, in which many of her contemporaries, including Poiret, had gone bust. Largely, it's believed too that Chanel would have also gone under in this time if it wasn't for her perfume, hence why it's believed to be the reason that she tried so hard to sue the Wertheimer family, who did own her perfume business. Or at least they owned 70% of it, but I'll just put the percents on the screen. While I say this, it's well worth pointing out that Schiaparelli really did have a profound effect on the Chanel business. Schiaparelli had all of the cool factor of Chanel, but Schiaparelli had a title. She was a baroness by marriage and from serious family wealth. Jealous, Chanel started to hit out publicly to Schiaparelli right from her debut in 1921, but because Scap never hit back, it ended up with Chanel just looking really cruel, dramatically affecting her public perception. Frankly, from here, people started to dislike Chanel, and by 1928, it was unignorable. Chanel had now been exposed for her social climbing ways, with peers noting that she was only particularly graceful or kind when she could get something from that person, while in the same breath was horrendously cruel to staff and or people she saw as beneath her. Even really influential people like Edna Woolman Chase, who was one of the heads of Condé Nast, for her book Always in Vogue, described Chanel as her Christian moments were sporadic. Chanel was now openly an arrogant person with an obvious superiority complex that had been well recorded for years before it came to affect her business. But she had a plan. In 1932, she staged a charity show in London encouraging copyists to steal her designs. She continued to believe that if everyone was wearing the same thing, then there would be value in the original. It worked to an extent, but unfortunately nowhere near as well as she had hoped, and she still retained a rather negative public image. Considering Chanel was still made popular by Chanel's personal popularity, it really affected both companies, fashion and fragrance. By 1933, she was voted out as president of La Société de Parfums Chanel. She, of course, still owned her 10%, they couldn't get rid of that, but she no longer had any control in the company whatsoever. She was furious. By 1934, Chanel was interpreting Schiaparelli's designs into her own, both in couture, in oversized bows and heavy shoulder pads, and in her jewelry, including the 1932 haute jewelry collection called Bijoux de Diamant, which was inspired by the stars, which is Schiaparelli's most famous motif. To reiterate her own memoir, quote, "It's best to follow fashion, even if it's ugly." Chanel was defeated. So, when she returned to Paris in 1936 after some time away, to find that her workers were on strike, she could not contain how incredibly angry she was. They had become part of the nationwide workers' strikes in France, calling for things like increased wages, allowance to unionize, a 40-hour work week, and 2 weeks paid holiday. But despite the fact that this was a nationwide workers' strike, Chanel felt personally victimized and blamed their new Jewish president. She fired 300 workers on the spot, just shy of 10% of her workforce. As a result, she didn't have enough workers left to complete her autumn 1936 collection and was forced to apologize to as many of them as she could and return them to work. It was downhill from here. Her autumn collection was widely panned for its overuse of other designers' themes, including now Balenciaga, who had once licensed her work in Spain. Her new petite range was also received with unnoted fanfare, and by 1937, her work was actually booed for the first time upon the debut of Cocteau's Edinburgh, for which she had designed the costumes. In 1938, despite number 5 still performing phenomenally well, most of high-class Europe had distanced themselves from Chanel. When Chanel woke up to war on the 1st of September 1939, she closed her business. Bitter towards the workers who she blamed for the recent downturn, she wanted to punish them directly. Only the jewelry and the cosmetic divisions remained, and that's frankly because they weren't under her control. By 1940, Chanel was working with the Nazis. By 1944, she was arrested by the Allied forces for being a Nazi spy. She did nothing to hide her compliance during the war. However, friends, Winston Churchill and the abdicated Edward VIII, intervened. She was released after 24 hours and self-exiled to Switzerland to protect her from the public, who now vehemently hated her. She began to pay off anyone with knowledge of her Nazi work, but in 1946 she was arrested again, this time with government knowledge of her Nazi identification number, F7124, her code name, Westminster, multiple letters written by her collaborator, Vofferland, and the details of one of her spy missions, but not any of the others. But she got off again only because there was nothing written by her own hand. You may remember earlier I told you she was nigh illiterate. That's why there was nothing in her own hand. It's just the courts didn't know. By 1953, Chanel No. 5 global sales started to dip. It was the end of the Chanel brand. But while Pierre Wertheimer, the owner of the fragrance company, was more than willing for Chanel to run its course, Chanel was not. She re-established herself in the Ritz, sold her home in the south of France, sold all of her properties on the Rue Cambon, save for 31 Rue Cambon, and was in talks to begin a new ready-to-wear line in America called Coco Chanel, which she was going to use to fund the return of her couture. But Pierre wanted in. He offered Chanel to underwrite half of all of her expenses to ensure the return was even bigger than she could afford to do alone. And also, subsequently, they quietly halted the ready-to-wear line for fear that it would overshadow the couture, or perhaps devalue the brand. Together, they embarked on a long period of marketing in anticipation of her return, heavily leaning on America, which is the one area where her reputation wasn't seriously damaged, drumming up as much interest as they possibly could. So, when the day finally came on the 5th of February 1954, every editor, buyer, client, and copyist was there with bated breath. One society lady come model after another paraded her famed staircase into the salon, and as they did, the audience's smiles fell. The show was a disaster. Nothing at Chanel had changed since before the war. She was as staid as they remembered from before. It was devastating. She had blown her chance at redemption. The failure was unignorable. But there was one glimmer of hope. America. While on her press tour, but pre-re-debut, Carmel Snow promised that she and the entire Harper's Bazaar team would be happy to help Chanel in any way they could. This, given that it was during a time when Harper's Bazaar and Vogue were in fierce competition, led them to fight to say something positive about Chanel's return, even if it was majorly hyperbolically relayed. First Vogue, then Harper's Bazaar printed lavish spreads on Chanel, starting the rumor that Chanel rid women of corsets, which again, she did not, and most importantly, picking out the only new design in the entire new collection, which was the Chanel suit. American magazines saved Chanel that year. While Europe still widely hated her for her anti-Semitism and the way that she treated others, that was simply not known in America to the same extent. And so the gratuitous press and lack of negative press meant that she had just enough sales to scrape by. Just not anywhere close to profitably. Her return cost approximately 35 million French francs, which is the equivalent of about €1 million, $1.2 million, or £950,000 in 2025, and that far outweighed any profit accrued from sales. The company was in deep financial trouble once again, and she needed to be bailed out. She turned to the man that she had tried to destroy during the war, Pierre Wertheimer, the owner of Parfum Chanel. She sold Chanel Inc., a 10% stake in the Société de Parfum Chanel, her commercial properties, all investments bearing the Chanel name, such as subsidiaries, licensed goods, and even the license to the Chanel name, logo, and branding, in exchange for her living expenses being paid for the rest of her days. It was a very, very generous deal for Chanel, considering her expenses were astronomically high and her business was only propped up by a single fragrance. A fragrance which was continuing to lose steam. Quote, by the early 1960s, it was suffering from a potentially disastrous overexposure and was widely available throughout the United States in discount drugstores and at chain outlets like Woolworths. It was becoming associated with the kind of scent that was worn by an older generation of women who were out of step with fashion. Chanel herself grew even more bitter. It did not help her public perception. By the time Pierre Wertheimer died in 1963, nothing at Chanel had improved. The companies were succeeded by his son, Jacques Wertheimer, but he famously didn't care about the business whatsoever, having his own distaste for a woman that actively tried to hurt his father. The turnaround of the company, or at least the cosmetics arm, was therefore not from Chanel nor from Jacques Wertheimer, but instead it was from a man who's rarely named in the history of Chanel, but is so fundamental for their return, named Jacques Helleu, who in 1965 was named Artistic Director of Fragrance and Beauty. It was his idea in 1968 to cast Catherine Deneuve, a French actress not really known internationally, as the face of the No. 5 fragrance. Her ads debuted in 1972 and were an incredible smash success both in France and America. This is really what set Chanel back on the path of growth, but you can decide whether it's a positive or a negative that Chanel never got to see her company return to a fragment of popularity, as she herself died on the 10th of January 1971, the year before the ads debuted. In the wake of Chanel's death, there were a series of 4 artistic directors of fashion. Autumn-winter 1971 to spring-summer 1973 was Gaston Berthelot. He was Chanel's second-in-command, way before she died, and he saw placid reviews. Autumn-winter 1973 alone was Ramon Esparza, who came to Chanel following his mentor Balenciaga's 1972 death. And spring-summer 1974 to autumn-winter 1982 was Yvon Dudel and Jean Causebon, who received reviews that Chanel was still dull. It's also worth mentioning Philippe Guy Bourget, who began Chanel ready-to-wear in 1977 and produced 2 seasons to start, so spring, summer, and autumn-winter ready-to-wear, and then the following year they also expanded that into spring advance and fall advance, which are like pre-collections, although they didn't fit on this diagram. However, of all of these designers, the one that's most worth discussing in this video, the one we cannot not talk about, is Ramon Esparza, who, despite only having a single collection for the brand, was the only designer in all of this time to attempt to push Chanel in a new, youthful direction, as Jacques Helleu was doing at the fragrance end. Ramon Esparza showed humorous fashion with a bright blue jaguar coat, a jacket with fragile France embellished, sombrero-like shallow crown hats, and most importantly, the first example of the double C's ever used on clothing. The double C's were themselves invented in 1919 for the Capel Cup to commemorate Arthur Capel's death, and was first used publicly in 1924 on the Chanel No. 5 bottle. But this was the first time the logo was ever used on jewelry, buttons, or clothing, So it was neither Carl nor Chanel who invented this. You might find some online things that say Chanel used to put on buttons. She did not. She used lions. Even the double C clasp on the Chanel flat bag, which is much later attributed to Carl, is not from Carl. It's from Esparza, as shown here. So he was a very, very influential designer to the history of Chanel. But at the time, the change was just too radical. He was let go after one collection. Fun fact though, post Esparza, but before Dudel and Posapon, Lagerfeld was offered the position not once, but twice.
You sell those. Yes, find me on
Which
Instagram.
ended up leaving the role to Dudel and Cosabon in 1973, who again saw almost no positive reviews. No positive reviews at all. Everyone thought it was dull under them. As it was, Lagerfeld would only actually take up the position in 1982.
I would
after
love to make you a custom
very
rug.
long period of courting from the
Find me on Instagram.
after
My
which
prices are
they
really
offered
low
him
right
an
now
open
because
contract
I'm still
in
learning how to
$1
do finish
million
work on the
annual
backs of the
salary,
rugs
which by the way is contested.
to
I go
make
over
them
it in my
like,
book.
you
It's a
know,
big
look
long story
perfect.
for that. Also, he was offered
So
unlimited
until my
budget for
master
collections,
finished
plus
rugs, I'm giving a heavy discount.
$1,000 stipend for his friends. So frankly, it was money that convinced him to jump ship. It was a ridiculously huge jump from what he was offered at Chloe. But it wasn't that simple. Because of Chloe's contract, Lagerfeld would have to do a staggered entrance into the brand, starting with consultancy on a few different collections, moving on to couture in Spring/Summer 83, and then ready to wear for Autumn/Winter 83, all of which were immediately seen as huge successes for contemporizing the codes of Chanel with the use of denim and leather, removing the podium stage, and debuting the younger skewing fragrance Coco, although that really is more attributed to Jacques Hallieu. From here, Karl Lagerfeld's Chanel can be broken down into about 4 eras. 1983 to 1990 is what I'm calling the debut. He set about creating brand signatures for Chanel for the first time, translating things that Chanel herself used but hadn't established yet as themes within the brand. This includes heavy use of tweed, marketing the gold trim in the jackets, heavy use of pearls, the black and beige leitmotif, using leather detailing, reintroducing the Le Marie Camellia, which Chanel did herself commission many, many years before, the Mazzaro two-tone shoes, and finally using military-inspired elements such as epaulettes. He also would work in Ramon Esparza-inspired elements, which he was never given the opportunity to develop into themes, including the use of adding very colourful pieces in between the black and the beige, which geared it towards a younger audience. He returned the use of using the double C logo in clothing, and he also brought back humorous elements as well, which Karl now reinterpreted into trompe-l'oeil from his first collection. Karl was a master of provenance in this manner, and even introduced to the brand the necessity of a Chanel archive. Because of this, his vision for Chanel completely reinstated the brand to popularity throughout this time, going to great lengths with the Wertheimers, who had begun this campaign at least as far back as 1981 with the movie Chanel Solitaire, to use marketing to reframe Chanel as this genius designer who was monumental in freeing women. Of course, having watched this video, you know that's not even close to the case at all, as she was actually much more talented at translating trends into her own branded minimalist style. But the marketing worked wonders, and that's why we think Chanel was more innovative than she actually was. Also, that's not really a dig. Karl similarly had no personalized style of design and instead is really famed for translating design styles into a modern context. It's what makes them both successful at their craft. Regardless, it was a massive, massive success. Chanel's memory was quickly reframed, and Chanel was transformed from being a very, very widely disliked Nazi affiliated brand to one that was young and fresh, most famously evidenced by the legendarily great success of the Chanel double flat bag, which debuted in Autumn/Winter 83, ready to wear. The next era under Karl is about 1990 to 1999, in which I'm calling the four-pronged approach. This is because the marketing of the Chanel brand can really be broken down into 4 different categories. The first prong of which is the use of supermodels within their fashion shows. Though this tactic really began definitely in 1983 with the signing of Ines de la Fressange to an exclusive contract, it really became popular around 1990 and would continue to gain traction throughout this decade with popular models like Stella Tennant, Linda Evangelista, Claudia Schiffer, and Kristen McMenemy. Simultaneously to this, Chanel began to expand, firstly vertically by buying up their couture suppliers to save them from bankruptcy. They bought far, far more companies than you would ever believe from 1985 onwards. So many that I had to give them their own chapter within the book because there was that many, and it's several pages long, by the way. But by the 1990s, that would actually become a real strategy for the brand to basically monopolize the couture crafts across the world. This was expanded in 1996 to create Parafection, which housed their non-consumer facing acquisitions. And secondly, they also expanded horizontally when they bought a 70% stake in Isaac Mizrahi, though that lost them about $70 million by 1995, and they pulled the plug in 1998, which ended up completely crashing the company. I don't think he ever recovered from this. The interesting thing about this, however, is that we didn't know Chanel owned 70% of Isaac Mizrahi until he sued them a couple of years down the line because it was brought through one of their subsidiaries. He lost the court case, so Chanel do still own the brand and its branding, but it raises the question of if Chanel have since expanded horizontally with other businesses that we just don't know that they've acquired. The third part of this strategy was shock marketing. Not quite in the brutal way that you probably know from Vivienne Westwood, John Galliano, or Alexander McQueen, but it was still the same strategy nonetheless, starting with hiring Philip Tracy to create a giant birdcage hat for Autumn/Winter 91 Couture, and going on to have so many more iconic moments throughout the decade. And the fourth prong has to do with the cosmetic side of the business, again, Jacques Helieu, because he was simultaneously making that side more youthful as well, thanks to the 1990 advert for Egoist, several in-store advances, which again I go over in the book, as well as the old video from Underskin. I really do recommend that video. It still holds up. And their 1999 skincare line, Precision. Sorry I couldn't go into any of those four prongs in a bit more detail, but there was too much to say, so I really whittled it down. Let me know if you'd be interested in a dedicated Carl's era at Chanel video, and I will go over this in much more detail in that when I have, more time to do so. The third era under Carl is 2000 to about 2013, in which I'm calling self-preservation. Because during the 1990s, Chanel was really on the up and up. But by 1998, their design aesthetic and their marketing approach was noted to be not having changed since about 1983, and the public was bored. Quote, having brought Chanel so brilliantly to life, the fashion cycle is again relegating the label to bourgeois bore. This led him to creating a minimal collection in spring-summer 1999, which was exceptionally widely panned for departing from the known Chanel aesthetic. He was between a rock and a hard place. Modernize the brand, get bad reviews. Keep the classics, get bad reviews. So instead, these next 5 years became about self-preservation, proving he could successfully revitalize the company for a second time by doubling down on this new minimal Chanel aesthetic. He started advertising online, he hired Peter Marino to redo the stores, launched a swimwear line called Moonlight, lowered prices across Chanel, promoted sportswear and casual wear, shrinking the logo in size. He debuted an advert on MTV, was heavily featured in Sex and the City. They started a new diffusion line called Beige for entry-level products, and there was also a huge marketing campaign towards younger people, as well as a new freestanding Chanel shoe shop in Paris. However, while all of that effort was going towards a younger audience, he couldn't do that while ignoring the original clientele. So instead, he decided to expand the cruise collections to catwalk shows beginning May 2000, which began a whole new era for Chanel, which in my book I'm calling Spectacular Chanel, as from this point, the sets and the locations would be used as the shock marketing factor. but they would settle on shows that were approximately 60% classic and 40% new styles to find the perfect blend of everything that everyone had been asking for. By February 2003, this had already expanded into the new Métier d'Art show, which was part trade show for other couture houses, part publicity stunt to show off the talents in their acquired businesses. It improved brand perception across the board and became a mainstay from here on out, joining the ready-to-wear, couture, and cruise collections in their growth over the next decade. And with that, he had succeeded in bringing Chanel from extinction once again by 2003 and seeing another decade of prosperity, materialized by the 2011 release of the Boy bag, which became another cash cow for the company. This brings us to the fourth era of Carl, from 2013 to 2019, which I'm calling the dip, but that might be a little unfair. You see, in 2013, Karl Lagerfeld released his book, The World According to Karl, and in it, his quote, "Sweatpants are a sign of defeat. You lost control of your life, so you bought some sweatpants," was well repeated in the media. It was the start of a very slow decline in his personal public popularity that also came to affect how Chanel was perceived. Spring-summer 15 especially was quite famed for this, as they saw a lot of pushback for their feminism collection, which people thought was dishonest for Karl's statements in the press, of which his criticisms of the way Michelle Obama looked had also gone viral by this point, but also because Chanel herself was well known to be a Nazi by this point, and it brought up her collaboration again. In France specifically, it also saw a resurgence of her reputation for treating staff appallingly, which the reputation has seemingly continued until this point, but I don't think it caught much traction outside of France. In that sense, Chanel's refusal to come onto social media, even by just this point, didn't help at all, because it was giving the impression that while they were doing all of these performative things, they weren't listening to the public opinion about why that probably wasn't a good idea. So, with the boredom of style once again being a problem, Karl's personal controversies, and a falling quality beginning around 2008 when they removed the 24-karat gold plating on bags, as well as a large annual price increase almost year on year, Chanel again began to fall from favor. Quote, in 2016, Chanel suffered a fall in sales and profits, according to the figures filed with Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce by International BV, the Dutch holding company which controls the luxury fashion label and its subsidiaries. As in 2015, creative director Karl Lagerfeld saw its net income plummet by 34.8%, down to 874 million, or 736 million euros, while its revenue lost 9%, reaching $5.67 billion, or 4.77 billion euros. Operating income was also down in 2016, falling by 20% to $1.28 billion, or 1.07 billion euros. As for Chanel's oh, I nearly got that in one breath. Okay. As for Chanel's net profit margin, it dropped to 15.4% compared to 21.5% in 2015. Public sentiment soon grew so large that the Wertheimers felt forced to release the Chanel full-year earnings for the first time ever in June 2018, which did help somewhat, but it was a bit too little too late. The criticisms had begun literally a decade before, and I've said it once and I will say it again, the truth doesn't matter. Our perception of the truth is what matters. So for them to have just let us believe that Chanel was falling in quality and all of these other things for the last decade, whether it was true or not, it hurt their business. Unfortunately for Chanel, it was at this low point that Lagerfeld would succumb to his illness when he passed away on the 19th of February 2019. His successor was named almost immediately and had been well prepped for the role, thanks to Karl knowing that he was unwell for several years before this. In fact, she had even taken a bow with Karl for the Cruise 2019 show, so well before his departure, it was obvious that she would take over. That did not, however, mean that her debut was a success. Unfortunately for Virginie, all of the issues that Chanel had had before were now on her shoulders. But she didn't have the decades-long reputation on which to quell any worries. As such, when her designs, and her sets for that matter, were just a continuation of what the public was already complaining about, she didn't really stand a chance. Complaints of fit, of a dated style, of a lack of quality were all rife across platforms. From this debut onwards, the reviews never picked up, and even other major changes at Chanel House that should have been reported on positively, for example, the 19 which was a massive central hub Chanel built for their Métier d'Art members that opened in January 2022, was barely mentioned in the media at all, in place of negative reporting on Viard's style, so she never really stood a chance. On the 5th of June 2024, Virginie Viard announced that she was stepping down from the role, mostly to a positive reception. Earlier this year, I actually met Virginie at the Stella McCartney Autumn Winter 25 show just by chance, and I did manage to ask her how she was doing. And she looked grateful for the question, but assured me that she was doing well, and I am glad for that. The media wasn't exactly kind to Virginie while she was at the head of the brand, and I know it's her job to be the face of the company, but it's very likely that she had been given the role without any freedom to change anything whatsoever. The company was profitable at that time, and they undoubtedly would have been looking to minimize risk. That's why she was chosen in the first place, because Carl chose her. It was less risk, and that's why she likely had to keep to a strict design allowance. Unfortunately for Viard, she was placed at the helm of the brand that had long been seen not to listen to its customers. So, when Virginie debuted and continued with collections that were also unchanged, she was dealt the lion's share of the blame. This is ultimately why she was allegedly fired and why she supposedly did not show up for her final collection, which was Autumn Winter 24 Couture, that showed only 20 days after she left. It's also likely why the interim 5 collections before her successor were similarly unchanged and similarly negatively reviewed. It's this Chanel in which Matthew Blasi has now found himself at the helm. As of writing, Blasi has yet to debut at the House of Chanel. This video was intended to coincide with his debut, so I thought it best to write up until this point in order to allow that backstory that Blasi was coming into and allow for Blasi to settle in before I give, a real review about his Chanel. I'll put his debut show on the screen for you to see because I'm almost certain to say, without having seen the show, that reviews will be mixed. It's incredibly difficult a job to blend classic and contemporary in a way that pleases both audiences. And frankly, for Chanel, much more so than any other brands, their legacy is how they define the brand. It's why we all perceive the brand to have so much value still, despite factors like their falling quality and raised price and they're alleged not making any profits, which does seem to be false. For this reason, that's why there has been so much discourse around if Blasi is the correct replacement at the brand. But one thing is for sure, is that much like Chanel and much like Lagerfeld, his CV, which I'll put on screen, is littered with quite varying design roles, of which he's been hired during major moments in design history. Because, in that sense, he does have the same quality that Chanel and Lagerfeld had that made Chanel successful in the past. He was able to translate maximalism and deconstruction at Margiela, practical women's wear at Celine, Americana at 205W39 NYC, and a modern, timeless elegance at Bottega Veneta. Further to that, his ability to continue the same client base that Daniel Lee focused on at Bottega Veneta shows that he is able to transition from a previous designer's work to his own take in a seamless manner, in the same way that heads of Chanel obviously hope that he is able to do for them. Of course, only time will tell if this iteration of the brand will find the same longevity that Lagerfeld had had. And at least, because I know that we as the public are so quick to judge, I do hope that we give him the grace time to grow into the role before we start pummeling him with all of our reviews. Because one thing is for sure, all eyes will be on Chanel and Matthew Blasi from here on out.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like the video, please do hit the like button and the subscribe button. For videos just like this, but about beauty brands, including that Chanel Cosmetics video, I really do recommend you watch. Click here. And special thank you guys out to my patrons over on Patreon for their ongoing support and for waiting such a long time for this video. So much reading went into this. There was a big gap. So thank you very much for your patience on that one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
My phone died.